Did I ever tell y'all about the time I ate camel semen?
No.
Okay, so
Fuck whatever I was talking about.
I thought this was a bit. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
So one time, I forget what year it was, but it was my birthday, kind of pre-transition, sort of, just like a birthday. I was like young adult at the time. My aunt tells me, okay, so listen, we got you a real present, but we also got you a joke present. We're not expecting you to eat it if you don't want to, but we think it might just be like a translation issue. But they said, we got these cookies that were at an import store. I forget what exactly it was from. It might have been like Egypt or something, if I'm remembering correctly. And it was like this delicious sweet cracker, like this sort of cookie made from like, you know, peanuts and like puffed rice of some kind. And something in it. And it listed very clearly everything in it very clearly, and one of the ingredients was camel semen. Now, I don't know if there's something called camel seed or camel whatever that might have been given a weird name, but I saw that, and I immediately, when opening that, I just, like, took it out, took a bite of it, and went, camel semen tastes really good. You know, I don't know. You know, I imagine, you know, for imports, they'd probably be like, I don't know about shipping camel semen, you know, so it's probably not what it was. But if it was,
yeah,
it's delicious.
I don't think it would be that, because really there's not that much practical use for using semen in cooking.
So I would think, but I don't own a camel, so I don't know.
But also, like, even if it is, like,
if you did own a camel, it might chase you a whole mile and then beat you to death.
See, it was really funny because I was offering it to my friends too to try, and they were like, "No, that might have like, yeah, it's weird." And so I would just eat it in front of them and make them cringe, and it was really funny.
Your friends were being babies. Like
they were.
It's just
fucking like get out of here with this baby shit attitude.
Okay,
you fucking bring your A game.
If it's baked into a cookie, like who fucking cares?
Exactly. Yeah, it's not like they're swimming down and getting your stomach pregnant with camel babies. You're just fucking, you know.
Like, that's literally one of those things where, like, it's just you see... If you did not see the text on there, you would eat and be like, damn, that's good.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a partially savory, partially sweet little biscuit.
So what you should do is stream How the Camel Got Its Hump by Jack Nicholson on the CD.
Does Jack Nicholson hump a camel?
No, it's narrated by him.
No.
Oh, okay, I got you.
It's like how Stella got her groove back, but like the cat.
How Freddy got fingered
on the
list. We can watch 1001 Nights. I think there's horny cannibals in that.
Oh,
do you see a second camel? Huh? Did you see a second
only
camel,
see
Freddy?
one
I only see one
Baron.
camel. I think I'm the favorite son.
Speaking of equine semen.
Is that equine? I don't know, whatever. Go ahead.
Are camels, like, related to...
They're,
I will Google that while you tell your story.
Fuck, damn it.
Oh, they're not. Okay.
I forget what the name of their family is, but they're not equine.
They have splayed toes.
Stevenson.
What was that, Pre?
The name of their family. The Stevenson family. Camel Stevenson.
I don't get the joke.
The family name. The name of the family. In this case, Equine Stevenson. That's the name. They're lovely people. You should see them. They actually live across the road. I was lying. We do live near camels, and they're very, very friendly. They're very secretive, though, so I didn't want to just be like,
me now.
No. Yeah.
What? What's gotta be bothering you, Evie?
The name of the camel.
So yeah, camels are very vengeful, and my favorite story of a camel is somebody, like, hurting a camel, and the camel literally chased a man for miles till he ran out of breath, and the camel just stomped on him to death.
Yo, that's crazy.
I mean, you see the way that they spit in people's faces sometimes when they try to pull them around or, like, mess with them. Like... I
mean, hon, if somebody rode you around on the desert for hundreds of years, wouldn't you spit in their face too?
I mean, it's not even that sometimes. Sometimes it's just a dude, like, sees a camel, is like, yeah, look at that weird little guy. And it'll just be like, yeah, suck my dick from the back, buddy, and just hawk a loogie in its face.
Which is usually very funny.
Oh, no, yeah, sure. Speaking of very funny, do you want to tell me about car jitsu?
Real quick, before we start about car jitsu, I looked up what was going on classification-wise with the camel. And it seems like Camels are just camels, all the way up and down, like, you know, family, order, whatever.
They're doing their own thing.
They're camels. The word I was thinking of is dromedary, but that's just like a type of camel.
Yeah.
Okay. It's camels all the way down.
Pretty much, yeah.
Anyways, Karjitsu. What's up with Karjitsu?
Karjitsu is like, I still haven't watched any matches of Karjitsu, but both Bridget
Are we talking like the fight scene in the Raid 2 where it's like all like tightly shot in the backseat of a car? Iko Uwais is like fighting his way out of there. Like that to me strikes me as Karjitsu core.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. It's the demystification of that by showing the reality of it being a cramped snuggle fest with your best bro as you try to maneuver anything but being stuck in place. It's kind of like that with this. It's basically... Because I don't know if it was you, Evie. Someone brought that onto the Easy Breezy TV stream, and like we were watching that for a bit, just like, let's watch some Karjitsu matches. Like, let's watch these two like beefy men try and make an action sequence happen in a reality where that doesn't happen, where that can't happen, and be like the exception, or not the exception, but be basically the working example of what that would actually look like. And it's so funny. It's so funny. It's just these two guys trying to keep their pants from falling off, climbing all over each other, trying to grapple. It doesn't work, but they've made countless episodes of this, and it's this ongoing, like, thing.
It's imported from Russia.
Oh, that makes it make 100% sense.
Right.
Like that, you say, as soon as you tell me that's from Russia, I'm like, oh, of course. Fucking of course it is. Like, that strikes me as something a couple of dudes like get fucked up on way too much vodka and are just like, Rachmaninoff, in the back of the car, we're going to be like John Wick.
I think I had more fun and
that was the worst Russian impersonation I think I've ever recorded.
I had a longer run, like on stream and off stream, watching slap fights. Those are great. What a conceptually amazing thing of just two people slapping the shit out of each other. Because the reality of that is, even in its controlled, sort of like regulated setting, you are basically gonna go truck driver mode, where like one half of your face is gonna look fucked up after a while, and you're gonna only be able to hear out of one ear, just because of all the wind and the like noise and the sun hitting one side of your face. Except instead of a sun, it's a hand just continuously smacking you to the point of blacking out until one of you goes down. Like, it's insane.
Yeah,
but it's the most, like, we'll do anything but go to therapy fucking sport I've ever seen, and I love watching it for the insanity.
Yeah, slap fights.
So funny.
Slap fights are somehow some of the most dangerous, like, close contact, like, sports imaginable.
Yeah, because, like, you can't, like, there's no defense against it. You're just like, someone's gonna hit you as hard as they fucking can, open palm style, and like
against boxing your fucking ear.
Yeah,
that's the thing too. It's like the brain damage you would take from boxing if all the blows were directed at your head, with time to brace and land them. Like, these guys are gonna be fucking batty at the age of 30. Okay, yeah. Like.
Oh, yes, you're making me think of as the opening to the recent, like, not reboot, but, like, the new string of Baki anime where the one guy just, like, slaps another man's, like, cheek and the brain comes out.
Yeah!
Like a fucking cartoon.
If only Baki the Grappler was a movie, then we could have some real fucking discussions.
Yeah, instead we just have Rikio.
I mean, Rikio's pretty good too.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch some Karjitsu. They just recently did like a ladies' night, and I want to see some like women's Karjitsu.
Baki the Grappler was very punchy, dude. Sorry.
Anyways, hi everyone.
Hello.
Welcome to Put It on the List. Break for music, and also need to clap. So on the count of 3, it's always 1, 2, 3 claps. So 1, 2, 3.
What reviews connected by cast or crew, deciding the next film, that's the gist. Put it on the list.
Bree, you don't need to clap. You're the one person who does not need to clap.
Sorry, do it again. Do it again.
No, it's fine.
No,
it's
no,
fine.
do it again.
No, it's
It'll
fine.
be funny.
No, it's fine.
All
All right.
Hey,
It's me, Jay. I'm joined by...
Bree, the
And-
other one. I have laryngitis and a bad back, but I'm here anyway.
Well, don't speak up too loud. You're gonna startle the dog.
I'm upsetting the dog. Go ahead, you two.
I'm Evie, and I was a school teacher back at home.
And lastly,
I'm Bridget. Betty Boop.
What a dish!
I guess it's gonna be kind of a gimmick for us to say a quote from the movie now.
What are we gonna do
I'm just
now?
doing it for
Gotta do
fun.
the best we can.
This is Put It On The List, a podcast where, if I can pull up my description here, each week, every 2 weeks, I keep fucking that part up. Every 2 weeks,
Yay.
we discuss a movie. The next time we record an episode, another person has to pick a movie, but the catch is that it has to be connected by either cast or crew to the previous film we discussed. Last time on Put It On The List, insert some funny clip that I want to use from the last episode. This time on Put It On The List, we had the privilege of Evie saving us from the hell that was X 1999.
Thank you, Eve.
Taking us to my dog barking. Do you want to give Bisky a Kong
Yeah,
to
I gave her
distract
one
her?
earlier today, but I guess I'm giving her a second Kong.
I would say set it underneath the desk here.
A second Kong has hit the dog.
Anyways, continuing
Saving
onward,
Ryan's Kong.
we were saved by Evie giving us Saving Private Ryan, which, goddamn, that is some cinema. However, before we get started, I'm going to allow a break in the recording so Bree can finish up and we can get to some icebreaker questions, because I actually have a few. We got a bit. Most of them are joke questions from Owen, but he gives...
I'm so
he
glad
gives
that we're
one-
getting listener questions now. It makes me very happy.
So I have 2 legitimate questions. One of them is from Owen, one of them is from someone else, and then there's like 3 joke questions from Owen.
Hell yeah.
While Bree is taking care of that stuff, what do you want to... Do we want to just do all of them? Do we want to take like 1
Let's
or
do
2?
the legitimate questions and then joke questions until we're tired of it.
Okay, sounds like a plan to me. Anyways, for right now, we're gonna twiddle our thumbs until the dog is satiated. Because apparently she decided that today was gonna be one of those days where she wants to act up while we're recording something. Maybe also just grab the treats so we have...
Those are about all we had.
Ah, shit.
It's okay.
Alright then.
They're in there. Anyway.
Okay. Oh.
But yeah,
I'll let...
both Bridget and I learned from Karjitsu from Jeff Gerstmann talked about it on a stream.
Gotcha. Okay. Trying to remember where I left off now.
We got
Icebreaker questions.
Yes, we have icebreaker questions. Thank you, Bisky, for distracting me when I was trying to talk about icebreaker questions.
Oh, real
welcome,
quick.
Jay.
Before I
Yes.
forget about it, I've been playing Jump Ultimate Stars for the DS.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, it's fucking great. But because it's like a fan translation, I assume this is the character y'all named Bisky after from Hunter x Hunter, but like her name is translated as Biscuit in the game.
No, that's her, like, legal name. She calls herself Bisky. Her full name is Biscuit Kruger, but because it's a cuter name, she calls herself Bisky.
Okay,
And that's where
I
our
see.
dog gets her name from.
Yes.
Good.
Anyways, actually, on the topic of cartoons, we have a question on our co-host page from Logogo from Caron, who asks, what's everyone's favorite 2D animated movie? I'll let someone else go first, because I got mine.
I'm going to need to think about that.
Yeah, I need a second.
Or maybe I'll go first.
Yeah, you should probably go first, because you've had time to think about it.
I got two easy ones. Princess Mononoke and Perfect Blue are like top two. Like easy for me. I imagine Bridget probably has an answer.
I mean, I'm not gonna give a whole list, so I'll just say, for the sake of me talking 10 hours, I'll just say Redline.
Really? Do we want to give any substantial reasons, or should we save that for when the topic
Well,
of those
it just
movies
depends
comes
when
up?
you ask me. It could be Redline, it could be Adolescence of Utena, it could be
That's a good one.
Angel's Egg. It just depends on my mood. I have like a rotating, like, you know, I can't, it's hard for me to just say definitively this number one. These are all my babies.
I think the not just like anime series, which is where most of my animated watching comes from, but the actual like movie that I go back and watch the most, that I've seen the most times and really, really loved it over and over again, has to be Paprika.
Really?
Yeah, it's really good.
See, that's never been my Satoshi Kon of choice. Like, Perfect Blue is mine. And then after that, it's Millennium Actress.
That is a really good one, too.
Oh, like, Millennium Actress is so good. Like, a literal masterpiece of a film, in my opinion.
Have you seen Memories?
I'm pretty sure I've seen Memories.
I saw it all alone in the moonlight.
Ba-dum-bum.
I was beautiful then. Anyway, you were saying?
Yeah, Evie, do you have an answer while I go distract the dog?
I'm just so bad at these questions that are just like, what's your favorite X? Because, like, I don't know.
Like, I mean, that's like asking, what's your favorite song?
Oh,
I don't know.
we did
what's
a
your
whole
favorite
show.
genre? There's 100 of them.
We did a whole show last time about your favorite X.
Stop this. Stop it. But, like, yeah, it's like, I feel like when I think about, like, okay, what's a movie that I really appreciate, like, for being 2D animated? It's something like End of Evangelion, where it's just like, that is like some of the most straight up like apocalyptic imagery rendered in 2D animation. That is just like, it's incredible to watch.
It's definitely my favorite thing to come out of Evangelion as a thing. Like, the rest of it, to be honest, never really caught my eye, and I know that's like the simplest fucking normie take of like, yeah, I like the action movie, but like, I don't know, it just, for what they did with the original series, it didn't really catch me. The extra stuff was kind of an extension of that, kind of droned on a bit, kind of built a huge world and didn't do anything with it. This is my opinion, of course. I know a lot of people love it, and I don't have to fucking answer for the guy who made it. You know, he's rolling around in money like Scrooge McDuck, and he's doing fine. But the point is, for me, I thought that was a good encapsulation of like some of that beautiful action taking place, some things being answered. I love a good apocalypse movie too, where just watching everything completely melt down into nothingness in a grand reset of humanity is so fucking pretty.
No, yeah. Like, that one's probably a top 5 2D anime. If not in the top 3, it's at least in top 5 for me.
I suffer real bad from, like, the recency bias. So, like, if I talk about, well, what's the most affecting 2D movie 2D animated movie I've seen? Like, it's probably something like In This Corner of the World. Like, that was really affecting. I think a movie that I would just kind of, like... I would never say no to. It would be something like Castle of Cagliostro. Like,
that's a good one.
That is a really good one.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, like I need like I need a narrower like criteria than what's your favorite thing.
Gotcha.
For sure.
That's a fair point. All right. If we're done with that one, if no one has any more input on that, next we have
answer it?
Yeah, I was first up.
Yeah,
My brain is not on today.
It's
Perfect
okay.
Blue and
Princess Mononoke.
Prince Mononoke.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
It's okay. I've been getting distracted by the dogs, so you forgetting that I said anything is totally understandable.
Got you.
Anyways, next question from friend of the podcast, Owen IRL.
Yeah,
co-host.
Owen.
So this one comes with a bit of a story. Owen says, I don't know why I only remembered this after listening to the podcast, but about a decade ago, me and several of my friends had a running bit where we would only discuss movies we'd seen in relation to the Clint Eastwood movie Space Cowboys. Plot points were scrutinized for likeness. Quote, it's just like in Space Cowboys was a common refrain. Casts were compared. Yes, Inception was good, but it really needed a horny Donald Sutherland. And the film industry was generally viewed through its lens. Spotlight would have never have won Best Picture if it had been up against Space Cowboys. I do need to emphasize that this was years before people started the getting boss baby vibes from this movie meme. This went on for several years before I learned that of the 7 or so of us participating in the bit, 2 of us, myself included, had actually seen Space Cowboys. So we decided to watch it all as a group. And suddenly the bit ended because everyone hated that movie and thought it was incredibly boring. Anyways, what's a movie that ruined the connection you had built with the people you thought you knew?
Oh, man.
Excellent question,
That's
Owen.
a great question.
The closest thing I have to a good answer was X 1999. that's with one person in particular. You could listen to the last episode to figure out to hear that. It did not actually ruin the connection, but that ends up being the thing. Is I have such a I'm generally good enough at like dividing like my attachment to a piece of media or something like that from someone that happens to enjoy it or see more value or less value in it than I do, that I can be like, yeah, that's fine.
You mean like good movies like Good Burger and Goofy Movie?
We do not need to get into that discussion yet. But that's my closest thing to an answer that I have.
I've mentioned, and I feel like this is a universal thing for a lot of people. I kind of, as I discovered myself and what I was about and my general, sanity, I worked my way up, up to my standards for friends over time. But when I was in the kind of drunk stoner phase of my life, I remember I knew people who would be like, hey, let's watch the Drawn Together movie. Or, hey, let's watch this like transphobic scene from fucking like the Talking to the Animals guy movie. What's his name? Fucking Ace Ventura.
The Wild Thornberrys movie.
Yeah.
No, it was Ace Ventura when
like,
nature calls or Pet Detective.
Where the whole
Pet
fucking
Detective is the one where it's
was like, but like that was where it bled into like me having already kind of figured myself out, and I was like, I hate you. That's not funny. Like, fuck you. That was the whole fucking punchline. Really? This movie sucks dick. This wasn't funny the whole time, and now I'm offended. Like, just one of those things where it's like, due to just tastelessness or lack of taste thereof, it's just really, really bad movies. When you find out people you thought you had things in common with, and you're just like, oh god, you do what? You watch what? What? No. Anyway, why?
Yeah.
No.
Alright, what about you two? Do either of you have an answer for this?
Yeah, as the podcast's resident Star Wars appreciator,
Wait, actually, can we have Bridget go first? Because I have another question that's related to Star Wars.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Bridget, do you have one?
What is it?
So, what is a movie that ruined the connection you had built with people you thought you knew? It's a tough question. Like, I feel like more people have the inverse of that, where, like, a movie is more so ruined by other people than a movie ruining relationships. Like, you don't get a lot of, like, Mario Party ass movies where, like, you watch it with other people and you're, like, getting into fights.
I guess that's the route my mind took, was the closest I had.
Yeah. Anything, Bridget? Going once? Going twice?
No, not really. I mean, if I'm watching a bad movie, I'm watching it because I know it's a bad movie.
Sorry, I'm holding back laughter because the people watching or listening at home can't see, but Evie's cat is going nuts.
Welcome to the episode with animal. Animal
apparently
nonsense.
This is the episode where our pets make it very difficult for us to do anything.
I see. Now that we've built a little bit of momentum, they want on the show.
Fucking cue, Bisky barking.
Where were they when we were establishing this?
They were planning this.
We built this podcast with our own two hands.
Don't yell. That's only going to make it worse.
We built this podcast with our own, I guess, 8 conjoined
if you can,
hands.
if Ziggy allows.
And built this entire 3-podcast empire, and now the animals went in. They're like, oh, can I have some of your pie? Well, you didn't help me bake it, so fuck you. No, actually.
Anyways.
Anywho.
Evie, Star Wars.
Yeah. I feel like some people, like the response around The Last Jedi caused some people to reveal their true colors. Like just hearing some of my friends like complain about that movie after the fact is just like, oh, it's like that? Okay, all right. You're that kind of Star Wars fan? Okay, I understand now.
See, the reason that we're still really good friends is I'm just not a Star Wars fan, so we never need to draw parallels. I can just be like, I hate it.
All right. Well, on the note of Star Wars, I have another question from Owen IRL here.
Let's hear.
Who simply asks, you ever hear of Star Wars? That shit sucks.
Is that the thing with the bald guy where they're flying through space and fighting Ewoks? No, yeah, I've never seen that.
Yeah, I like the Christmas special.
I did this one next because, funnily enough, Evie and I feel like we have had a lot of discussions about Star Wars specifically, or at the very least, like, the meta surrounding Star Wars and, like, being able to enjoy it while not being, the kind of person that you were just talking about, Evie, and also not being like a full-on man-child about it, like just being like, no, this is my silly movie about space wizards, but also it's awesome because it's about fucking space wizards.
Yeah.
Space wizards like love shitto.
It's one of those things where it's like, I understand the love of it if you're willing to not take it hyper seriously. I think the thing that poisons the well for me when it comes to discussing it as a serious film franchise are the people who need you to take it so seriously, this movie about space wizards. It's like, can't we just be happy this is a cool concept if you're gonna, like...
But the thing you get into is, like, there's parts of Star Wars that are, like, legitimately serious. Like, you look at something like Andor or Rogue One, where, like, it's about more, like, the politics side and, like...
Oh, like the prequels.
Concepts. No, we're not talking about the prequels yet. But
there's so much space conquest.
But like, I mean more like political strife, like the revolutionary side of it. That was like a thing that was, you know, more so set dressing for the space wizards in that original trilogy, and you have like people who grew up on that and saw the value in discussing that part of it specifically in the films they ended up making with that franchise. And it's like, no, that's they want you to take it seriously, but
I mean, it was about the Vietnam War.
Yes, it was. It was about the Vietnam. Like, that's the thing. Mm-hmm. That's what makes Star Wars actually fascinating, is it, like, runs this very tightrope between trying to be very serious, but again, being about space wizards.
No, yeah. I think a lot of those parallels, though, I guess get lost when we are separated further in time from what inspired it. You know, God knows it repeats itself, but in that exact moment of that, plus, you know, with all of us growing up kind of thinking about, like, you know, oh, I interpret Star Wars in my head with, like, weird plastic cup heads of Jar Jar Binks, you know, at Taco Bell. I didn't get that at the right time, you know? Mm-hmm. But no, yeah, I mean, I guess if you look at the originals, then yeah, there's absolutely
but it is
things
serious.
to draw from that.
No, yeah, that's the thing. Yeah. That's what makes it...
I know it because when my grandmother was dying... My nephew had a plastic lightsaber and was playing with it. And my grandmother was like, put that away. That's not a toy. I mean, I thought it was a toy, but...
Your grandma who was in the process of dying?
Yes, of cancer.
Wow.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing at that. I don't know how I pivot out of this. We got another joke question for
pulled out a toy as if he pulled out an Uzi. Like, it's a plastic sword. You could just say, stop hitting me with that, you little bastard. And, like, that would have been, you know... I don't know. Anyway, go ahead.
Okay. Do you want the last two joke questions from
Sure.
Or do we want to
Let's go for it.
Hit me with another joke question.
Who's ready for me to butcher some French?
Go for it.
Yeah.
All right, great. Owen asks, who will be the brave individual to steer the selection until the only option is l'arrêt d'un train en gare en la Ciotat, which that's the, like, first basically recorded film that is, like, the dude standing in front of a train as it's, like, arriving into a station, that, like, made people, like, leave the theater in fear.
Oh God, right.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Because they had never been confronted by something like that. They're like,
it's amazing to think how, like, the monkey brain needed to evolve to the moving pictures.
Yeah.
Like, that's insane to me, because now, like, I'm one of the people for whom, like, you've seen me playing PT with, like, a blank look on my face. If something is on a screen and not in VR, nothing scares me. I'm like, this is in a fucking contained box. This is nothing.
Couldn't be me.
But, like, when you think about... Yeah, Bridget, yeah. But I'm saying, like, when you consider all of that happening, that there was a time that a room full of people saw a video of a train coming and thought they had to evacuate to not get hit by a train, is, like, it's insane. Like, that's huge.
I mean...
I want to watch it just because I'm fascinated now, but I don't know how we get there. Like,
I mean, wild card is
how
we get there, basically.
That'll be the way.
Speaking of wild card, the last question that we have from Owen here: when are you watching Solo or 120 Days of Sodom? That's a movie that you cannot watch, Bree. 100% for sure.
I mean, if I want a good time, I'll just watch Grave of the Fireflies. Feel-good movie of the summer. I laughed until my sides hurt.
Hey, I've laughed at that movie.
Why? I was just kidding. Please go on.
Well, I told this before.
No. Let her talk.
Me and, you know, the group of people with Zach Birchie, who's no longer with us, it was 3 a.m. And, you know, when it's 3 a.m. and you watch Grave of the Fireflies, you
get a little punchy.
You get a little punchy, let's say. I didn't tell him the jokes we made.
We don't have to.
I was gonna say, wow,
too much.
Yeah, you know, 3 a.m. for those starving kids must have been a real hoot. Yeah,
you cannot. I've heard some of the things that you have said.
I just made a joke about it.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just calling her bluff.
Anyways.
I'm doing the Randall Graves thing. Anyway, go ahead.
I mean, you can buy that candy. That's an official product you can buy to this day.
Fucked up.
Nice.
Really fucked up. Anyways, speaking of extremely fucked up,
Yeah.
Evie, do you want give us a little overview of the film that we're going to be discussing today?
Yeah, the movie that we have watched and will be discussing today is 1998's Saving Private Ryan, directed by Steven Spielberg, starring Tom Hanks and 100 other people.
A lot of people.
Yeah.
I just realized something.
What's up?
This will be our first loop, you know.
Yeah. Yes.
But also, every single thing we picked was 90s.
That's fascinating.
No,
Was Babe
Mulholland
2?
Drive is... Babe, I think, was. Mulholland Drive is 2001. I'm pretty sure.
All right. Right on the curb of that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that Mulholland Drive is like immediately post the turn of the millennium.
I feel like it's kind of 90s score, though.
Was it was the pilot that it was based off of filmed in the 90s?
Potentially. We can't get bogged down in this.
Anyway, go on. Sorry.
I don't think we actually talked about that at all on the Mulholland Drive episode. Like the fact that that's like a reworked pilot for like David Lynch's Twin Peaks follow-up. It's really interesting. Anyway, Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So like, okay, backing up to Mulholland Drive for a second.
Beep, beep, beep.
So like the thing is that Mulholland Drive was originally like pitched by David Lynch as a follow-up to Twin Peaks. Like he wanted to do another like TV drama in sort of that vein, kind of using the stuff that he had learned from running Twin Peaks. But he just couldn't get it made. So instead he reworked it into, you know, the movie that we watched. And like I'm not sure like the extent to which like some of that footage is like from the pilot, but it I think it is like to some degree, which is why like it's filmed in different ways, like from one section to the other. Yeah, it's quite cool. All right, back to Saving Private Ryan. All right. Okay, so Saving Private Ryan is a movie about how war is some of the worst shit that people can do to each other. It follows. There is kind of a what is it like a
ragtag crew of soldiers.
Well, I was meaning like there's a kind of like establishing narrative, like a sort of blanketing sort of story of an old man visiting the World War II like
memorial cemetery in France.
In France,
I coined that as like the prologue and epilogue of the movie, personally.
Yeah, a framing device. That's it.
Yes, framing device.
Yeah, framing device of this old man visiting the World War II memorial in France with his family. And we are sort of whisked back to kind of focusing on a particular squad of soldiers, you know, captained by Tom Hanks's character, Captain Miller, and featuring just like an assortment of delightful character actors who, you know, mostly just die over the course of the movie. And
once you pop, the atrocities don't stop.
It's like 75-25% like death versus survival. I think.
No, yeah, they're definitely popping some lids. There's a lot going on, a lot of creative ways to die.
Mm-hmm. They're part of the Normandy invasion. The movie kind of has an infamous opening sequence featuring the Omaha beach landing. And
you might have seen it in Panty and Stocking.
It's been
so frustrating. You might have seen it in Conker's Bad Fur Day.
You might have seen it in everything because it is the Akira bike of actual like live cinema.
I need to get through this synopsis real quick.
I just want to note that the Conker's Bad Fur Day she's talking about is the Xbox version, not the N64 version.
Noted. All right, moving on.
After they have firmly established themselves in France, they are tasked with a mission all the way at the top where they need to go retrieve a Private Ryan, the titular Private Ryan, who is the last surviving of 4 brothers. 3 of his brothers are dead. He's the only one left alive, and they didn't want the brass didn't want an entire family to die in the course of this invasion. So they basically spend a dozen guys to go get one guy. And
they are effectively on a PR mission, more or less.
And like the kind of like a lot of the movie kind of wrestles with that question. What does it mean to have a bunch of guys like go on this mission to save one dude specifically, and in the process like a bunch of them like don't make it. And it sort of like culminates in this battle over a bridge that Ryan's squad is trying to kind of hold. Ryan refuses to leave his team behind just so that he can survive the war. So Miller's whole crew is involved in kind of defending that spot, and it's a horrible nightmare where most of them die.
Oh yeah, it's an absolute nightmare. I think so. Probably one of the most amazing things to me about this movie is how swiftly you are able to summarize it there, like how neatly it is divided into effectively just like 3 to 4 set pieces, more or less, and you can tersely summarize it like that. And this movie is nearly 3 fucking hours long. Yeah. Like that's one of those things to me that, of many things that happen over the course of this film, like kind of point to this arguably being one of the greatest like achievements in cinema, like as a film.
There's a lot of texture to this movie, and that which is kind of what makes it like so good.
Yeah. So kind of starting from the beginning, I love the framing device. Sorry, I'm dealing with a dog here down under the desk. Is the very beginning framing device. There's like one big trick that the movie plays, and it also like teases at like a trick that a schmaltzier movie like could have done. I don't know if any of you were thinking of it when that scene was playing out, but when you have those shots of old Ryan like separating off from the family that he's like going to the memorial cemetery with, he like separates from the pack. Every time that you had one of those objects like pass in front of the foreground, like in front of him, I kept expecting that to be the way that they transition into the past. Like that would have been such a like really fucking easy way to just be like, okay, and we're in World War II. Like we have gotten into this. We are there. We got it nice and easy. But the movie refuses to do that. It just, instead, what it's doing in those moments is just fucking isolating him, which is one of those themes that really, really struck me about this movie, is how much at its core it's just about the absolute like alienation and isolation that you experience when you are in like when you go through combat like that. Like you get that brotherhood with the people that you fight with, but also once you get back, you
gotta live with it. Like,
yeah, you gotta live with it, and you cannot relate with any normal person the same way ever again.
Yeah, I feel like it's a very good move to like kind of ground the movie in this in that, I guess, then modern day sort of perspective, because like it doesn't hit you over the head with it, but it does like make you think about like how does someone carry what they've been through like forward throughout their lives.
Not just carry what they've been through, but the people that they have known throughout their lives too, which will come back around like towards the end of the movie. And the other trick that I really appreciate this movie doing is Ryan was not at Omaha Beach.
Right. Yeah, like, he parachuted in, so like he wasn't there.
Yeah. Like it focuses, so in that scene, you see old Ryan, like he's slowly making his way to the grave. He finally gets in front of like a gravestone and he just fucking collapses to his knees, like just out of the guilt and sadness and trauma that he has experienced in his life.
And it's not clear that it's Ryan at this point.
No, it's not clear whatsoever. And the camera just slowly zooms in on his eyes. And it's from that zoom in that then you are taken into Omaha Beach. And it makes you think like, oh, we're at Omaha Beach. And like the next like kind of focused in shot is like someone in the boat. Like it's,
I think it's Hanks. I think the idea is like it kind of like leads you to believe that that it's him.
Yeah, especially when you get to the end of the Omaha Beach segment and like the last like kind of shot you get of that is just a like hard zoom in on his eyes. Like it's just focused in on there and what he saw. So it's just very much tricking you, being like, oh, okay, so this is about Tom Hanks, you know, he gets through this and, you know, he's torn up over something, but we don't know what. But anyways, the main note that I have for the Omaha Beach segment is fucking sound and fury. Yeah. Like, not a single frame of that entire sequence is wasted in illustrating like either pure chaos or absolute futility.
Yeah.
Like, characters who are alive and uninjured in 1 second have a fucking crater where their face used to be. That's like, despite like all the various like viscera, like you see dudes like getting their legs blown off. There's like one shot at a certain point where a dude is like stumbling around carrying his like
his own dismembered arm.
Yeah.
But the one for me that struck me the most is they've gotten up the hill to the beach and they're about to like blow a fence open to get through, and Hanks is like communicating with the guy that's like controlling the radio. He like rolls over and talks to him like to deliver the message, rolls over to some other dudes to talk to them, rolls back to the guy, pulls his face in camera, and there's just a fucking crater like where his face used to be. That to me is maybe the most haunting image of this movie. Yeah. It's so fucked.
And I feel like this is also a place where you see, like, you know, it perfectly encapsulates and perfectly captures that sort of, at least to the best of my knowledge, the feeling of being under fire. The feeling of being disoriented and like, oh God, we didn't see this coming. What's happening? Oh God, the casualties of war raining upon you. That feeling of helplessness. And the reason I bring this up particularly is because, you know, everything now has like the sort of Blair Witch / Cloverfield syndrome, depending on who was inspired by what, where shaky cam is constantly done wrong and used in a way to blur the fact that you're not capturing anything. Whereas the way that we were watching actually a documentary talking about how they worked with the shaking and the stuttering of the camera's focal view to show just like the disorientation of that whole situation. And you feel that. It uses that medium in a very, very real and good way. that really captures just the absolute like insanity of the whole thing.
Yeah, it's shaky cam with like a very specific intent that is not just easy grasping
exactly.
at like, oh, action.
Oh, it's the Cloverfield monster. I can't hold the camera. No, it's just actually like it was done in such a way and with such a very intended, technology to like consider the frames and choppiness to create that feeling of disorientation. You feel it, you do.
Yeah,
it's really, really well shot.
Yeah, like I'm not a you can only experience this in theaters, and like if you're watching it on the small screen, you're wasting your fucking time. But like I want to see like a a remedial kind of or showing of this movie in a theater, because like I can't imagine like how different that experience is, where it's just like you got sound systems like beating the hell out of you while you're watching this happen.
Yeah, it actually, you can understand how, aside from just the PTSD that they had preventing them from doing so, how this was like a movie that some veterans just were not able to watch.
No, yeah.
Like there's just so much in those first 25 minutes. Also, I have a quote here from the end of that Omaha Beach segment where, you get that right before you start focusing in on Hanks's eyes. I think it's Tom Sizemore comments to him like, it's quite a view. And, you get that focus in on the eyes, and then it hard cuts to the fucking, like, waves red with blood on the beach.
Yeah, the sharks are eating good tonight. Let me tell you.
They're having guts gumbo.
Although a lot of the fish were blown up, if you saw. A lot of the poor.
Not only were the fish blown up, but also so was some poor, helpless Ryan. At which point we transition into a sea of typewriters just penning letters to families of people who died during the war. And you like hear like
I just want to know.
Yes.
My favorite death in the opening scene is the guy who gets shot in the helmet and he takes the helmet off and he's like,
"Whoa!" He's just like, "Oh, check it out! Oh, close call, huh?" And then he gets shot again.
I turned to Jay and I said, "Why did he take it off?" Like, I got shot in the.
That's the thing. Is like, there's so much fucking chaos that like your mind can't even process it. Like, that's what makes that, despite it being a really fucking stupid moment for that guy in his life, like the ultimate stupid moment in that man's life, you get it. Yeah. If you got hit with a fucking bullet while you were wearing a helmet, you would also take that shit off and be like,
just like, oh shit.
Fuck.
Yeah, like
I would have caught the book.
Yeah, I think a thing about like the Omaha Beach segment is like how many like almost like comedic beats are in it, where it's just like, we talk about the fucking like the stuff with the guy who got his face blown off, but that's almost like it's like a joke, where it's like Hanks like talks to that guy a couple times and the third time is when he looks over and that guy's dead, or it's just like
it's absurd.
Yeah.
Like, it's literally absurd. Like, there's like a certain point where like I think it's the main medic character is like saving a guy and you hear him yelling, "We've stopped the bleeding!" And like as he's saying that, a fucking bullet catches that guy that they stopped the bleeding on in the head, and he's just like, "Motherfucker!"
Yeah.
Like, he's pissed. Like, it's like, it is literally like a Nietzschean level of absurdity where like you want to laugh, but it's so horrifying.
It's so like, nightmarish that's like,
I laugh.
There's a couple of beats later on that I end up laughing at that I don't feel great about.
We'll talk about those when we get to it. But yeah, the typewriter room.
But yeah, you just have the sea of ladies on typewriters penning all these letters to like now families with dead sons. And not only that, you have that sea of like clacking on keyboards, but you're also hearing like overlapping narration of each separate letter, and like kind of the essentially like I always forget what the term for like placeholder text is.
Like the kind of lorem ipsum of
lorem
like,
ipsum.
yeah.
Well, the lorem ipsum that like each commanding officer is effectively giving those people to type out to the families. And then through that, you know, one of the ladies that's typing things out is grabbing a bunch of papers and realizes like, oh fuck,
this lady's this mother is getting like 3 letters at once.
Yeah, this is not good.
And this is also, you know, yet again, already another beat where you start to realize, like, yeah, he wanted, you know, the director wanted to capture, like, war fucking sucks. Like, this, you're watching these, like, very earnest letters telling these mothers about their dead sons who fought honorably in the war for blah, blah, and it's just, hundreds of these need to be cranked out, like, over and over again, because everyone is just getting mowed the fuck down. And it's just like the reality of how many of these, like, you know, oh yeah, very special, earnestly, like, you know, wanting to let them know the honor and the, yeah, they're all dying. They're just
your
dying,
son
dying.
And
this
others
insanity.
like him.
Yeah. And it's like, it's insane. But anyway, go ahead.
I mean, there's not much to really elaborate on in that scene. Like, they're kind of coming to terms, like the military commanders, with the fact that they are effectively just going to organize a PR mission. The main thing to note from this scene is less the typewriter. Like, the typewriters is like one of the key moments. For me, when they cut to the mother of the Ryan household in that house, that is like a testament to the mastery of like Steven Spielberg as a director, because of just how effortlessly it communicates all of the information that you need to know without a single line of dialogue.
Yeah.
You see the car with the star driving down the road. You see the 4 stars in the house window, 1 for each brother. You see the mother looking out to the car and immediately like walking towards the door. Next to that door, you have the framed photos of the kids. As soon as she sees the priest get out of the car, she falls to the ground outside. Like, just clean as a fucking whistle. It communicates exactly what you need to know there.
And it's like, you know, that can sound like a little clinical, but it's like, it's rendered in a way where it's like, it's heart-wrenching. Like, the way that she just like completely loses it as soon as she sees the priest, because she knows what's going on. Like,
Yeah.
it's horrible.
It's fucked up. Bridget, you look like you have something to say. What is
when I saw that scene, the first thing I thought of is, wouldn't it be funny if they just went, your sons are dead, and drives all the way back.
While we were I just for a second, I want to talk about how Bridget and I watched this film together. We watched it via Pluto TV with the ad blocker turned on. So there were sections where the film like faded out to where like commercial breaks would go. And also, she made that joke while that scene was happening, and I laughed so hard we had to roll it back so I could see the reaction shot of the mother.
The other thing to note is, I don't know what was up with Pluto TV, but when it returned from an ad break, 2 seconds, a man's voice would say, "Car pulling up." Or like what the 2 seconds of like the description of what the scene was.
It's the audio assistance for visually impaired viewers.
Yeah.
That was going on when we'll talk about it another time, but that was
different.
going on when we were watching a totally, like, just a show, and we were like,
we were
what
watching
the
new season of Clone High.
Yeah, it was like, is this some weird obscure thing that half of this is spoken in French? What the fuck is happening? Anyway, moving on.
So, you know, I mostly just wanted to highlight that part because I think that is such a fucking perfect example. Like, I don't have a lot of experience with Spielberg as a director, like very admittedly so. However, I saw that scene, and that scene alone is one of those things where it's like, okay, this is why this man is like one of the most acclaimed filmmakers of all time.
Yeah, it's kind of like, as far as like like filmmaking is concerned, like, you know, there's a lot of criticisms to be levied about Steven Spielberg, but people kind of like, he's considered one of the best for a reason. It's not just that he made E.T. Like,
yeah,
or Jurassic Park.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or Ready Player One.
I was about to say that, or Ready Player One.
Anyways, from that scene, we have some more talking between the military commanders, and we
get
have
one-armed Bryan Cranston in this scene.
I did not even notice that he was one-armed in that scene.
Yes, like you could see it like in the establishing shot for him, where his like the sleeve of his uniform is pinned up.
Yeah, he served in the army and the leggy.
Bad.
Sorry.
Bad, no good.
Free from Macross Plus, he's here.
Yes. Then we go back to, you know, the aftermath of Omaha Beach. We have a nice little conversation between Hanks and Dennis Farina that
Are we gonna cover Abraham Lincoln?
Yeah,
That's
the
sort of
commanders
like the
aren't
main...
convinced to do it. Like, but the general of the Joint Chiefs of Staff is just like, Abraham Lincoln wrote this letter about, you know, how all of like this letter to like this one specific mother who all of her sons died in the war, and like
that seems to be his main motivation for this. Is like, I have this. He has it bookmarked, like the fucking.
like, it's that the Lincoln quote is one of those things that I feel like it comes back around at the end, but that's maybe the part that stuck with me the least from this movie.
It's one of those things that's like, it's something where it clearly means a lot to the
Spielberg.
But also just like the general who is making this decision. But like, as you see more of like kind of how that decision sort of like spirals out and affects the people who are actually going through it, they're just like, who the fuck thought that this was a good idea to like send 8 guys after one guy? Like, or it's just, there's that disconnect that like it feels, or at least Spielberg views it as inherent to like a sort of like an institution like the army, or like where it's like so stratified, and like the distance between like the guy at the top and the guys at the bottom, like something like that is bound to happen.
Yeah. That, in the few watchings of like behind the scenes stuff I saw, like that was very much a thing that Spielberg wanted you to be thinking about the whole time, like that moral question of like, is this really worth it? Like, sending all these dudes to rescue one guy, like what is putting the value of their lives, like, or the value of that one guy over their lives? And you have multiple characters throughout the whole
it's revisited
movie.
Multiple times.
Anyways, the order makes its way to Hanks of like, all right, this is what you're gonna do. You know, you're gonna take these people here, you are going to go find this guy and send him home. The one ripple in the plan is that Hanks's translator got killed during the Omaha Beach storming. So they recruit a little young upstart by the name of Upham, a soldier with basically no real combat experience, who like is at least like passingly fluent in French and German. And my favorite detail in that scene is the patience that Tom Hanks exercises with Upham while he's fucking scrambling to get all his shit, because it's not just a funny comedic beat, but it also is a really good hint at what Hanks's background was before he went into the war.
Yeah, it does. It says a lot about that character, where he's not just like beating the hell out of this guy.
Like, I hadn't even considered that until you pointed it out.
No, yeah,
now.
he literally is just like holding up one of Upham's items and is just like, take your time, soldier.
Yeah.
And that is absolutely a fucking teacher thing to do.
Yeah, it is.
Like, to just, when you have that level of patience, to just be like, it's all good. Everyone has their own pace on things. Go ahead and do that.
Yeah.
Also, he holds up the pencil to be like, don't take the typewriter, just use a pencil.
Yeah.
Like,
Number 2 pencil.
But yeah, so I don't know if there's much more to note from the like cobbling together of the team. For my notes, I immediately go to the like walk from the beach to the bomb city that they eventually arrive at, because, you know, that's when you finally start getting some like really proper character developing with each member of the crew. You start establishing all the different personalities.
I mean, on the beach of Normandy, we established Jesus Man. Jesus Man.
Yes.
Yeah, Jackson the sniper, who is like...
I mean, you have a few different like small moments like that, but they're very small moments where you don't get to really take it into full consideration. Like, you have Jesus Man, you have the Jewish soldier who, like, Vin Diesel hands him like the Hitler Youth knife, and like he kind of jokingly grabs it, and then he's like clutching it to his chest, fucking weeping about what he just went through.
Yeah, like it's the moment where everything breaks.
He's sniping at you. He's the first member of the PR crew.
Boo.
Sorry.
The comedic relief is here.
Yeah,
No, yeah.
thanks.
The whole time through this movie, I'm like, somebody throw a fucking pie. Like, Jesus Christ, man. Anyway, go on.
But yeah.
That's the thing, Bree. You have to be the pie.
Yeah.
I've been the cream pie before, but, you know, that seems like a different discussion.
Anyways,
Bridget
moving on from that.
certainly wasn't afraid to throw some pies.
No, she was not.
We'll
She's
get to it.
never afraid to throw pies. Anyways, you get good character building moments. You have Hanks kind of, just by virtue of everyone talking about how private he is as a person, like establishing his authority as the commander of the group. Like, you have that really good exchange of like everyone complaining to him and them asking him like, don't you see any issues with this? He's like, nah, gripes go up, not down. Like, yeah. I'm not gonna complain to you. You complain up to me, I complain up to my commanding officer. And they ask him like, well, let's say hypothetically I was your commanding officer, like, what would you say to me? And he gives that like very sarcastic response of just like, I would say that this was a very valuable use of military assets. And like, you can just really feel how alienated each person in this operation, aside from Upham, is about this scenario. Which Upham is the only person who, the quote I have here is him talking about a book that he's writing where he's like, it's about the bonds of brotherhood that developed during the war, and everyone is immediately just giving him shit like, you don't fucking know shit about brotherhood right now.
Yeah, war, which has blown up all of these brothers.
Yeah.
Like actual brothers.
Yeah, and we started walking through like the various characters in this group. We have Mellish, who's the Jewish soldier played by
Adam Goldberg,
who would later go on to star in the film The Hebrew Hammer. But like nice. really turning in a great performance in this movie.
Everyone in this movie.
Yeah, everyone in this movie is great. We got Caparzo, who is, Vin Diesel himself.
Yes.
I was listening to the Blank Check episode about this movie. And one of the hosts, Griffin Newman, relayed a story that I don't know if it's actually true or not, but apparently after this movie, he was cast to play just like a heavy in reindeer games. And on the set, one of the I think either a director or a producer or someone like told him to take his shirt off for the film, and he was like, I only take my shirt off for Vin Diesel movies, and they fired him for doing that. But you know what, he took his shirt off for Vin Diesel movies after that.
He did take his shirt off for Vin Diesel movies.
That's a cute little...
You get Barry Pepper,
he's the Jesus sniper guy.
Is that guy? Who am I getting? Who's the other? So I'm trying to... The main way I contextualize everyone is by who survives and when they get killed off. Who's the other? Because you have Upham, Ryan, and who's the other guy that survives again? I forget which actor plays him.
I forget the character's name, but he's the Brooklyn guy. He's Edward Burns.
Edward Burns. That's
hey, I'm the Brooklyn guy.
Guy that looks like the wrestler. You would need to be more specific.
Sorry, Eddie Kingston. I remember the name.
Oh, there's no, you're thinking of Tom Sizemore, who kind of looks like Eddie Kingston.
Tom Sizemore. The whole time in my head, I'm just thinking, I hate you. I hate the air that you breathe.
Okay, stop.
So like when he gets in a scuffle with someone later, I'm just like, I can't unsee it. I can't unsee it.
Which, speaking of, you also have Tom Sizemore playing essentially like Hanks's second in command, more or less. And I think those are the main members of the crew. There's the medic.
Giovanni Ribisi, who is the medic.
Yes. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know if I have much more to say about that, because it kind of... That's mostly just like the nice little... Here we are more firmly establishing our characters.
Yeah, just like...
It's pretty easy to truncate this.
Yeah, here's a moment with these guys before we start, into
the real shit.
Yeah. And boy, do we ever get into the real shit once we get into
Paul Giamatti.
Yeah, we meet Paul Giamatti, and the guy with the radio Private Boyd is played by my man Nigel Whitney, the guy who I connected X to.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
But yeah, so we find Paul Giamatti and his crew in a bombed out French town where, that seems to be getting held down by like sniper fire of some kind. So, the crew, they're trying to figure out how to navigate through it. They see in one of the bombed out houses like a French family with like a kid that they are trying to pass off to the soldiers. They're like, please take our daughter, except they're yelling in French. So like there's just all this chaos of like different languages. And Vin Diesel, our sweet dumb baby, is like, no, I gotta take this kid.
She reminds me of my niece, sir. I can't leave her behind.
Which, while silly, finally starts really fleshing out what a lot of this movie is, those moral questions that Spielberg is wanting you to consider. Like, you have Vin Diesel finally firmly attaching himself to a family that exists outside of this conflict right now.
Yeah, but also like trying to walk off with this child, like, it's a horrible idea because there's no way they can keep that child safe.
To a house down the road. Yeah.
Like, he's like, I'm just gonna take him down the road.
Yeah, it would just be better to keep the child with its family, considering at least they're not identified as military that is being shot at. He also makes a fatal second mistake. He gives the child his cross. He's no longer protected.
No longer powered by Jesus.
That's right.
But yeah, so as he's, grabbing the daughter, Hanks is like yelling at him, like, what the fuck are you doing, you dumbass? And in the midst of all this chaos and yelling, the sniper pops him right in the chest. And it has probably one of my favorite moments I've seen in a movie in a while of like diegetic music, where Diesel collapses onto a broken piano and it just hits this like nice discordant like note on the piano. So it's not only him falling onto an actual piece of set dressing, but it's letting you know via sound design that like things are about to get bad. Like things are very bad now.
Yeah. He even tries to like stand back up after he's been shot, which is like another like even back in 1998, Vin Diesel like trying to no sell like any physical harm that befalls his characters. But yeah, like he gets shot. He's in the middle of the road, like completely no man's land. And like he is basically begging the other members of the squad to get him and like start like patching him up, but like everyone else knows that like anyone who tries to go get him is going to get shot too. So
yeah, and he starts to in turn almost kind of realize that as well, because after a certain point he starts pulling out like the letter that I guess effectively every soldier has like already started penning to their family of like, I have this thing, I wrote it for my dad, it's got blood on it, which ties into like a nice little moment later on in the church. But yeah, he's just bleeding out. Like you have Adam Goldberg like having like the most visceral reaction out of everyone. Like you can tell just from like some of the like character sorry, I saw Bridget walking away from the conversation. She realizes she's not gonna get a word in. Anyways, oh no, it's because there's a dog.
Yeah,
sorry.
She wanted to go get her dog. Oh, Penny.
But yeah,
every pet has interrupted now.
Yes, you have established a little bit of that playful like brotherhood between Goldberg and Diesel, but here you're finally seeing it properly in action, where it's like, oh fuck, like yeah, these men have connected in some way or another, and now that connection is just going to get torn asunder by just stupid shit, unfortunately.
I just want to know, Penny is now joined because she too was whining outside the door.
Oh yeah, we were
Penny.
acknowledging that while you were grabbing her.
And yeah, Barry Pepper shoots the sniper that was afflicting them. Just like
headshot man is really something.
There's a moment earlier, like during that like kind of liminal scene where they're just walking along where Barry Pepper is just like, I'm simply too cracked to be on this mission. Like they could park me in Berlin and I will 360 no scope Hitler.
As soon as I see Hitler out of my peripheral, that man's fucking dead.
It's on site for Hitler.
Yeah, which to be fair,
not Hitler, the sniper.
Also, a smaller detail that I didn't notice.
Do you think he could do a testicle shot?
I bet he could if he wanted to.
Yeah,
100% he could.
He probably could. A smaller detail I noticed on my watch through for like proper note taking is when they finally get the like French child back to her family, like that daughter is fucking pissed. Like she's like slapping her dad in the chest, like, why the fuck were you trying to send me off? Which is just like another moment of feeding into those ideas that Spielberg is wanting us to think about of like the value of human lives. Like what makes that daughter's life more valuable than the lives of the rest of her family, like necessarily in this situation?
Yeah, and like she just saw a man get shot and slowly bleed to death in the road. Like that gets fucked. Like
she gonna be hyper traumatized as well.
Anyways, Barry Pepper crack shot shoots the guy through the fucking eye view of the sniper rifle.
It's so sick.
It's awesome. They're free of that situation. Vin Diesel is dead. the crew and Paul Giamatti are going through the town. They're looking for a place to like kind of find shelter in. I think it's
great stuff from Paul Giamatti during this whole sequence, by the way. Just like where he complains about having the ankles of an old woman. Like it's very good.
Speaking of a very like terrifying but funny moment, you have Edward Burns like lightly presses against like a piece of like wood and rubble, and it like knocks over a wall, revealing like a cavalcade of German soldiers.
Oh, no, that was Giamatti. Like Giamatti sat down,
Shit.
yeah, and then like he sat down, and which knocked over a bunch of wood, which knocked down the wall, which revealed a bunch of Germans in like a radio room.
In my notes, I say it's almost Looney Tunes-ish.
It's like a time crisis scenario.
It's like a Wolfenstein level.
Very time crisis.
It is kind of Wolfenstein.
You found the hidden room.
It's Wolfenstein. It's time crisis-y. Like there's a weird video game-ish like slapstick comedy aspect to it.
I remember they just both start yelling at each other because nobody's shooting first. They're like, oh,
yeah,
like
no
just
one wants to be the
yelling.
one to start shooting. But thankfully, Ted Danson arrives on the scene and shoots all the Germans for them.
Yes. And, you know, Ted Danson starts shooting the shit with Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks asks if he's got a Ryan in his party, and he's like, yeah, I got a Ryan. I got a James Ryan over here. Let's call him over. And we have little Nathan Fillion running over.
Little baby Nathan Fillion.
And Tom Hanks just fucking kneecaps this dude with some emotional trauma, saying, like, all your brothers are dead. And he's weeping, sobbing, emotionally breaking down, and then he's like, how did they die? They were only in grammar school. And that's when it finally starts clicking in Hanks's head of like, oh, fuck, it's the wrong Ryan, which is one of those like very like sad but funny moments where you're just like, oh no,
you traumatized this guy in the middle of warfare.
I need
for
to
no
get
fucking
home.
reason.
I need to get home. I can't be here.
Yeah, like that's the thing is like Hanks gives this guy some emotional trauma, but like Nathan Fillion's also just trying to get out, where he was just like, no, I need to go home in order to make sure that my brothers are safe. I'm just like,
that is a
buddy.
fair point. Yeah. But yeah, so they discover, shit, it's the wrong Ryan. They ask around. They get like kind of a lead, but it's still like a very like vague lead that's not exact. And they take shelter in a local church, which for me has some of my like favorite character moments personally. First of all, you get the first like proper acknowledgement by another character of like Tom Hanks's like shaky hand, where he's very much trying to play it off. He's just like, I started getting it after this one thing, but it comes and goes. And it's like, buddy, you got PTSD, you got the fucking shell shock. Like,
yeah, he's got it real bad. And like earlier, like right after the Omaha Beach sequence, we see what the fuck is Tom Sizemore character's name? It's like
I can't remember.
Horvath.
Unfortunately,
Horvath. Like he takes like a bit of like French dirt and like saves it, and like you see like it's like dirt from Africa and Italy, and it's like these guys have already been in it for so long.
Yep. Yeah.
And that is a great little piece of storytelling that kind of conveys that perfectly.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have in this scene like Hanks trying to justify all the death that he has seen by saying like, you know, I feel like for every single person that dies under my command, I'm saving at least 10 people. But even he admits in that conversation like that it is just a rationalization.
Pure
like
copium, yeah.
Like it's so fucked up. Like, and then my favorite moment, and the thing that ties into like the themes of alienation and isolation from the people, the normal people in your life as a soldier, is the Giovanni Ribisi like scene where he's talking about how as a kid he and his mom had opposing schedules where like she had to work like night shifts and the like, so she would be like coming home like as he was going to sleep for the day or something like that, and you know, he would try to stay up late just to spend some time with her, but he would always fall asleep. But then there would be times where he would be able to stay up, but he would pretend to be asleep just to watch her from bed while she would like stroke his head. And all while he's like delivering this monologue, the camera first starts off blocked in such a way where it's like you can tell that his face is framed between like the pews of a church seat, and then it just slowly is zooming in and focusing in such a way to where the like wooden slats on the back of the pew have like fully boxed in his head, like into almost like, it's not quite 4x3, it's a little bit skinnier than that, but it just fully isolated. And he's just like, I have no idea why I would do that, but I just would.
Yeah, it's the sort of thing where it's just like, you know, he at the time is just like he probably had like some petty reason why he didn't want to just like chat with his mom or whatever, but like now he's like 1,000 miles away, and
yeah, it's so good. I loved, from the very first moment I saw that scene, I loved that scene. That was another one of those like Spielberg moments where it's like, okay, this is why you have the reputation.
This movie loves moms. A lot of people talk about mom or cry for mom.
Everybody's got a mom. Like,
yeah.
That's why Mars needs moms.
Nope. Moving on.
I think that's one of the strengths of this movie, where like you never like, it is very interested in the humanity of these guys.
Yeah.
Yes. The humanity and the rationalizations that people have to put in place to almost effectively like cast aside that humanity.
Yeah.
In the way that you have to be a soldier.
Yeah, like, yeah, it's interesting in the humanity of these guys, both in like, you know, we see them being human, and like also just like that doesn't stop them from doing things that are terrible, that are participating
or like
in...
really towing the line between doing something horrible.
Yeah.
Also in this scene, you have a brief moment between Upham and Hanks where Upham is talking about like how he thinks this experience is good for him. Like, yeah, it heightens the senses and like it's gonna force like swift decision making in the face of combat. Like, again, going back to the copium, because Upham saying these words put a fucking pin in that.
Yeah.
But that's about where that scene ends for me in terms of like thematic notes that I take away with it. Do any of you have other things to say about that one?
It's not the first point where it's mentioned, but like there's a running thing of like there's like a pool among the squad to like find out where Hanks is from.
Find out his background.
Yeah.
And he's also aware of it. He keeps occasionally poking people, saying like, "What's the pool up to?"
It's just like, yeah, when it gets to 500, I'll tell you, and then we could split it. And there's a good moment where Upham is like, well, you know, I would be remiss to say anything other, like we should wait until it's 1,000 and then do that. And it's just like, yeah, but we may not live that long. It's just
yes. But yeah, from there, we have some more traveling along, and eventually they come upon like a congregation of like wounded soldiers that's also in the middle of like a marching line of like refugees from bombed out towns, other soldiers making their way to their next battlefield, and like German POAs and the like. and you get a bunch more like little small moments. Like you have Goldberg seeing the like German soldiers being hustled away, and he's holding up his dog tag that he's taped like a Star of David to, and he's just saying Juden, like just rubbing it in their fucking faces, like look at me, I'm fucking Jewish and I am free
Suck
while you're
back.
getting hauled away.
Yeah, exactly. How you feel?
Yeah. But the main thing to take away from this scene is, you know, they're still trying to find leads on Ryan, and the guys are like, you know, we basically went through a fucking slaughter like of our people in the mission that we were on. We might have had Orion. Here's a bag of dog tags. Like, sort through this and see if you find anything. And like Hanks's crew is going through it and kind of like being really lackadaisical and loud about the situation. Like they're essentially like making jokes while they're sorting through all of these dead names and the like, and eventually I think it's Upham is the one who
it's the medic. It's Wade.
Oh yeah, it's Ribisi. Like he walks up and starts snatching it because he sees all the other soldiers that were ostensibly part of that crew walking by looking at them. He's like, have some fucking respect. Like, what the fuck are you doing right now?
Yeah.
Like, and
Yeah, like Tom Hanks even comes over and is like, you don't really see what he says, but he's like, you know, smiling and like he's clearly joking along with.
yeah. And once Ribisi does that, Hanks is also like, yeah, you know what, fuck this. And just starts walking through the line of soldiers being like, do we have a Ryan? Ryan? Anyone? Anyone have a Ryan? Anyone? And then
he's just like visibly frustrated with the whole thing, because it's just like they say at the earlier on, it's like finding a needle in a pile of needles.
Yes. Like you get some really good like comedic beats in here, like him trying to talk to like the French family and just like real bad French like dialect, like trying to speak to them and ask about it, and they're all just looking at him like, what the fuck are you doing? And then eventually you have like one soldier who's like, yeah, I think we had Orion. This guy knew him. You're gonna have to talk louder though. He had a German grenade go off right by his head. And as he's saying that guy starts saying like, you gotta speak louder. I had a German grenade.
This is another one of those like moments where like there's levity in it, and just like it's another like absurd moment.
Yeah.
Where it's just,
No, I'm in World War II. No, it's rubbish. Anyway, go on.
and yeah, the guy who's hard of hearing like is another like minor character actor who most recently was Thor in God of War Ragnarok.
Oh, weird. Very weird. But yeah, they finally get like a nice solid fucking lead from that dude, and from there they leave that congregation and they come upon a hill that has a dude or a few dudes on machine guns, like just a nice turret.
Before we move on from the prior sequence, there is a bit with like part of the whole thing about why it's so hard to find this guy is that like he was part of a paratrooper unit and like they went like way off course from where they were supposed to be. And we find out during that scene why they were off course. It's because the glider that they were supposed to be on was carrying like something like a starred general. And in order to protect the general, they welded a extremely heavy iron plate to the bottom of the glider and didn't tell the pilot about it. So that caused the thing to go super off course. Everyone on there fucking died, or not everyone, but like there were heavy casualties as a result of it. The general died, and basically like it set up, or like it became this place where soldiers kind of ended up drifting in and out. People would, like some officer or whatever would come through and like round up whoever's there nearby and then go do something else. And so like it kind of became this like point of like this kind of like chaos But it's another instance of like the throwing away a bunch of lives for the sake of one guy, but it didn't even protect that guy. And also like the distance between, or like how like that distance between like the guys at like the top of an organization and like the folks who actually are at like having to do all the shit, like how that can cause so many problems. I'm sorry, a fly flew into my mouth as I was talking.
Oh
no! You want to take a break?
Yeah,
it's okay. You set up the next section.
I mean, there's not too much to set up. Like they formulate a plan to try and get up the hill and take out those turrets. You have Upham watching from afar as, you know, you see like some action happening off in the distance. Then seemingly the chaos stops. Upham joins the rest of the crew, but unfortunately Ribisi got. Like, he's bleeding out amongst the people there.
He got getted.
And, you know, he keeps asking him for morphine just to help kill the pain, to make it less miserable as he slowly dies. And, you know, they killed the majority of the German soldiers except for one, and they argue whether or not to kill him. Upham like is the main one, being like, this is against the fucking the rules of combat. We legally should not kill this man. Like, he is a prisoner. We should not kill him at this point. And, you know, Hanks is struggling with it, and you could tell that he probably also wants to do that. You know, he decides to give the crew some time to think about it. You have Upham and the German soldier like effectively digging a grave for them to put Ribisi into, and eventually they seemingly come to a decision on what to do with the German soldier, and they approach him and Upham at the grave, and the German can tell that he's probably about to get shot, and he starts talking about how much he loves American culture. Say like, Betty Boop, yes. I'm trying to
fuck Hitler.
Well, that's the last
Betty
thing
Gable, what gams?
Yeah.
I don't know, anyone who's defending Betty Boop in this day and age, I'm still thinking about pulling that hammer back.
But yeah, the last thing that he says
well, it
is
wasn't
like
this day and age, it was...
No, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
The last thing that he says, like, effectively out of desperation is like, fuck Hitler. Like, just thinking, like, if I say this, they gotta let me go.
Yeah.
But, you know, Hanks is the commanding officer, is like, we're gonna let him go. They put a blindfold on him. They say, just walk in that direction and do not fucking stop. Like, keep going. Once you hit a certain point, take the blindfold off and go.
It was hard for me to tell, but it almost looks like Tom Hanks is laughing at the guy walking blindfolded.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. There is, like, again, a weird absurdist nature to everything that they're doing in this situation. But, yeah, they decide to let him go. Mistake. Put a pin in that. And shit starts to break down amongst the soldiers.
Hey, Evie, do you want to talk about this character's death and how...
Yeah, before we get to that.
No.
There was... So, like, a reason why, like, stuff is breaking down is, like... It was clear that these dudes did not want to fuck with this machine gun nest. Like, they were like, why do we have, like, we don't have to deal with this. We can just walk around it and, like, let the next set of guys deal with it. And, like, and Hanks is like, well, we have to take care of it because, like, if we don't, then it's just going to kill the next set of guys who just wander into it.
We're just setting up the next, like, group for failure.
Yeah, like it kind of like harkens back to the conversation in the church where he's like, you know, if a couple of my guys die in the process of taking care of this machine gun nest, then I probably saved like a dozen other guys from having to die. And yeah, and I like that we don't really see like them taking the nest. Yeah, our perspective is like on Upham, who stays behind with the gear essentially, because like everyone else takes all their shit off because like they have to run up the hill as quickly as they possibly can.
Like we just see like grenade exchanges, like
grenades getting tossed and
like thrown back, and then like all this stuff, and like it's like a very tense scene because like you have no idea what's happening until someone finally yells at Upham to like bring the medical equipment, and like yeah, the scene with Wade dying is like it's heartbreaking because like you're with him like as he's bleeding out. Like he's like, because he's a medic, he's like trying to figure out what's wrong with himself as he's like bleeding, and like the other guys like no, they're not capable of dealing with it, and like, oh, they're talking about an exit wound, and you know, they give him morphine, and then one of the guys is like, give him an extra morphine, like. And like at the end, like the man is like, he's crying for his mama as he's like as his lungs are filling up with blood, and it's like, it's brutal.
Just fading out. Yeah.
Because that's all you can do when you are, you know, in that situation is just look to the people that you used to seek comfort in.
Yeah.
Like, it's fucked.
Mm-hmm.
What? Bridget, you look like you did something wrong.
Let me tell you what Bridget did. After we watched like this man die in this movie, she played a womp womp sound with the Discord soundboard.
No!
I am I am shaking my head at you. I am extremely disappointed in you, Bridget.
My God, no, you can't do that. Is that allowed?
Says the girl who just laughed at it.
Anyways, but yeah,
I didn't laugh. I'm not laughing at it. I'm laughing at the fact that you did it, and like, it's like watching this movie with Bridget was an experience because like this movie, I was very like I was emotionally affected by this movie, and like. Bridget wasn't, so it was so yeah, I was
quite a experience.
Yeah, I'm always kind of the middle ground in that, because for me it's like I do feel things, I am empathetic, I love to get lost in a movie, but also my ADHD brain thinks that the best way to handle that is to make jokes, so I'm constantly having to slap myself down to like be in it sometimes when it's something of this length.
Yeah.
I do notice a little bit of fight back to go, what if I threw a pie? And Neo Jay's like, no, put the pie down.
Please don't.
Like, yeah.
But no, yeah. So in part because of what Evie said with this being an unnecessary thing that they had to do, but also with the frustration of letting the German soldier go, Edward Burns' character is like, you know what? I'm just gonna fucking leave. Like, he is basically threatening to desert because he's like, this whole mission is bullshit. We just lost someone. We did not need to do the thing that we did, and we do not need to continue doing the thing that we are doing. We had one of our own die just to get to someone who, one, we don't know is alive, and two, we don't even know if he's worth saving.
Yeah.
And, you know, we got Tom Sizemore is aiming a gun at that man, being like, if you try to leave, I'm going to fucking shoot you. Like, I will kill you here if you do that. And then Hanks chimes in and says, what's the pool at? Like, the only thing that finally reins everyone in is Hanks sharing his backstory with them. Like, fleshing himself out to let them all know, like, no, I am not just some authority figure that, like, manifested from the ground up or something like that. I too have a family that I came from. I had a really fucking mundane job that I did before I did this. Like, so if I can find it in me to continue on doing this shit, then you all need to be on the fucking level with me right now. Which, again, just keeping that question on the mind of, like, what the fuck can drive a person to literally sacrifice their existence for the existence of one other single person? Like, how does that happen in the human brain?
Yeah, he says something to the effect of, like, if finding Ryan and getting him home is what lets me go home to my family, then I'll fucking do it. Like,
yeah, I'll save every Ryan I can if that's what I have to do to get back home. And, you know, they finally all make their peace. They bury Wade. And they continue along, and, like, one of the few moments of peace in this movie as they march through, like, the flower field, and Goldberg's character is, like, singing to himself while they march. It's this, like, it's maybe the one serene moment in this movie where you're just like, oh, things are okay right now. Like, shockingly so. But that's immediately broken by, like, a German APC starting to pass through the field. They all duck down, and then suddenly an unknown party blows the fucking shit out of that vehicle, and turns out we found the fucking Ryan we were looking for. Like, we have found James Francis Ryan, played by, at the time, relatively unknown actor Matt Damon.
Little guy named Matt Damon.
It's really fucking fascinating to consider how much that casting changed in, like, the span of probably a few months. Effectively, like, Spielberg talked about picking out Matt Damon because he's like, yeah, he just kind of looks like an everyman type person. And then, like, literally Good Will Hunting comes out, and he is, like, one of the next, like, Hollywood starlets, where it's just like, oh yeah, that's the next guy. Like,
it's an everyday man. Day man. Fighter of the night man. Man of the day.
But yeah, so, you know, Ryan takes Hanks's crew to his crew, who have essentially been given an order to hold a bridge from the Germans. Like, they break down how, like, yeah, we effectively have no commander at this point. We just know that the mission we came into this with was this. So we are going to do this mission, and that's how it is.
Yeah, until someone tells us different. Like,
yeah, which Hanks slips in is like, well, I'm gonna tell you different. You have a way out. You're basically, all of your fucking brothers are dead, and the military is giving you a free ticket to leave. And Ryan is like, why the fuck do I deserve to go? Like, just very much being like, how
everyone else
making the central question bravely of the movie. Like,
yeah, why the fuck why do I deserve to leave? Like, everyone else has been fighting, I'm gonna fight with them.
Yeah.
One of the things that happens here is it's a repeat from the first Ryan, in which that Ryan asks, which of my brothers are dead? All of them.
Yeah.
Like, both Ryans ask that, and you almost basically get the same.
It's not the exact same reaction. Like, Matt Damon's
Matt Damon's Ryan is a little bit more reserved. He's like, trying to fight it more.
You can tell that he knew that the risk was there because his brothers were in the military. Like, with the other one, he was... Oh, we got a dog barking over here. Bisky, come here.
Pounding the couch with their tail.
Yeah, Nathan Fillion was shocked because his brothers were children.
Yeah. He's like, oh no, did the Germans make it to the U.S.?
Did the Germans kill my kids, my brothers in grade
He's like,
school?
whoa, they fly in. Hey, let's kill that guy's kids. But yeah, no, but this time they got the real one, and he's just, you can see, again, this wash over his face, though, of just like, oh my god.
But yeah, so, you know, we have sorry, I got the dog underneath me here again, making a fuss. Can you pet her a little bit? Give her some attention.
Yeah, Ryan basically says, like, you know, just tell my mom I died with the brothers I still have, and, like, she'll understand. And, like, Ryan says that, and Hanks is just like, fuck. Because, like, he knows.
He knows that, like, literally the only way I'm going to get you out of here is literally by making sure you survive this thing that you were, like, sent here to do. Fuck. And, you know, from there, because we at the very least have this congregation of like two groups, they're able to like rally together and like set up some plans for what the fuck they're going to do against whatever forces are going to be storming this bridge.
Yeah,
and
they have like some sort of vague notion that the Germans will try to take the bridge back, but there's no like clear
what the forces are going to be.
Yeah, there's no clear plan of attack.
Yeah, and once you get through like the hard planning, you get some more like nice character moments. Like the Tom Sizemore is kind of the most, this is going to sound mean, the most like two-dimensional character in the movie, but at the very least he has like probably the most like thematically tied line in the movie, where he says someday we might look back on this and decide that Saving Private Ryan, he said the thing,
he said the title of the movie,
was the one decent thing we were able to pull out of this whole god awful shitty mess, which like it starts to drive it home with you, where it's like, oh no, yeah, like all this fucking warfare and like just death and despair that we have had rained upon us, that we've rained upon others, that has not been the point. But we might actually like concretely save one person's life and send him home to his family. Like that is a thing that technically you can look back on and see the ramifications of and be like, no, this person survived and lived through it.
This is also part where we learn that, hey, do you know women? Awooga! Awooga! Them titties, am I right?
I mean, it's an awooga moment, but it's also like, it's also juxtaposed with like Upham translating this like French love song that's like this like really sincere song of like longing for someone that you
longing for like, them titties
that is no longer with you. And you know, they too try to joke about it, but like you can tell that there's like an actual genuine resonation in their brains that like links up with that song. Like it may be a jokey moment, but it is still a very concrete like thematic go ahead.
It wasn't just that. It was the other guy. What was the other guy, Evie, where they had a really bizarre story?
Yeah, Ryan tells a story.
Wait. Before we get to Ryan, because I have some notes about that too. I want to go back to the planning real quick, because there's just one very specific detail in there that's going to be important for when we get to the bridge sequence, which is Goldberg putting Upham in charge of bringing the ammo.
Yeah.
Put a fucking pin in that.
Yeah, he specifically tells Upham, hey, when we call for ammo, you have to be really fast about bringing us ammo because otherwise we're fucked.
Yeah. Anyways, tell the story about Ryan telling his story.
Yeah, so Ryan, while the other guys are just kind of hanging out near like where shit's supposed to go down, Ryan and Miller, Tom Hanks, are kind of chatting about I forget. Oh, it's like Ryan was talking about how Miller's a school teacher and all this kind of stuff.
Well, no, specifically Ryan is talking about like how, despite the fact that his brothers are dead, he can't see their faces anymore.
Yeah, he can't remember their faces. And like Miller tells him, hey, you need to have a context. Much like how I can't think of what my favorite whatever is. Like you need to have a more specific like set of circumstances that you're thinking of them in, and then like as part of that memory, you'll remember what they look like.
Which also put a pin in that idea of remembering someone in a context.
Yeah. And so Ryan remembers like this moment where he goes with one of his brothers to spy on another one of his brothers who was like hooking up with a girl, and like he says some really shitty stuff about how this girl looks. Yeah, and it's like it's a story that like ugly. Yeah, it's a story that like as he's telling it, like he's cracking up in a way that you can
feel bad for him if it wasn't such a bad story.
Yeah, it's like it's one of those things where it's a true you had to be there sort of thing, except that in telling it just makes him look worse. We were talking about, or like we've been watching that the show The Bear recently, and like there's a scene in that, and there's a scene in that show where it's like one character is relaying a story about it's like the best way that story could be told juxtaposed against the worst way that story could be told. So Ryan is relating this in the worst possible way. And you can tell that Hanks is just kind of like laughing along with him, just like, yeah, that sounds real. Every branch on the ugly tree, huh? Yeah, right. Very funny. And they have this moment of where Ryan relays that story, and Hanks tells a story about like his wife, how like he remembers her by remembering a moment where she was like working on the rose bushes wearing a pair of his old work gloves, and like Ryan asks for more details on that, and Hanks just tells him no.
Yeah,
nope, you don't get that. It's just for me.
I saved just for me. And such a, like, even after Hanks has opened up, he still understands, like, no, there's some things that I need to just keep to myself. Like, not only for privacy's sake, but, like, still as, like, the authority figure, he probably realizes, like, no, if I give you too much, you're going to do some fucking stupid shit that's going to get you killed trying to help me or something like that. Like the weird balance of being a soldier and like forming those bonds and that trust with the people around you, while also like, no, we do still need to be alienated just enough that we don't fucking get each other killed in this situation. But yeah, from there, Eventually
the Germans arrive.
Fucking harrowing last 40 minutes of this film. And this is the one time during this conversation that I'm going to bring up X 1999 again. This movie is how you make death feel like something has like weight and meaning. Like you have, those opening 2 hours, which really, when you take out the Omaha Beach like sequence, is really only like an hour and a half of just building these characters, building them up, breaking them down, in either conversations or dire scenarios thrown at them. And then you spend the last 30 to 40 minutes with their lives in like proper fucking jeopardy. Like, that is how you make a large cast like that actually feel like they are not all like expendable, and like you actually care for these people and want to see something happen with them that is not just them dying horribly. Like, yeah.
And I feel like this section, like it's contrasted very heavily with like the Omaha Beach sequence, because it is way more like action war movie kind of stuff, but like we're getting that payoff of these characters that you've been with for like an hour and a half, just like having like the most grisly, horrible fates visit on them. Like it's terrible.
Bordering on genius in terms of like crafting a story, like knowing that like, no, we are bookending these things with slaughter, but we have that slaughter returning to this word in different contexts. We first have it with no real strong context. It is just meaningless death. It's just fucked from top to bottom. And you have it again at the end, and it's still fucked from top to bottom, but you have the context for these characters at that point. Like, fucking great. So fucking good.
Tom Hanks invents sticky bombs, and then somebody instantly fucking blows.
He not only, well, here's the thing, he doesn't invent sticky bombs.
He's just like, it's in the field manual.
And they're like, we don't have any field manuals, man.
You're gonna have to tell us.
Like, it's so good. Visky, what are you doing? Sorry, our dog
keeps slamming the door outside.
Oh my fucking god.
And yeah, the first time they try to use one, the guy... I'm sorry?
No, continue on.
Oh, yeah. The first time someone tries to use one of them, because like the whole thing about this is that they're trying to hold this bridge, and they're just like, well, it's mostly hopeless, but if we can like disable a tank in the middle of all of it, in the middle of like this kind of narrow pathway leading up to the bridge, they can maybe like have a defensible position. So their whole plan rests upon disabling a tank. And so in order to do that, they make a couple of sticky bombs and kind of try to blow up the treads on the tank so that it stops and keeps any other vehicles from getting in and wrecking their ship. This plan doesn't work. So
no,
it certainly doesn't. They do manage to disable a tank, but that does not stop additional tanks from coming. And
tank
and also
two.
There are additional tanks and also like a tiny like flak gun that they just like. I've never seen something like this thing, like where it's just like, it's like a shopping cart with a flak gun in it, and it's just like used to kill a bunch of people. It's a nightmare.
Yeah, I admittedly did not take much notes on the carnage itself, because very genuinely, it's fucking hard to watch.
It really is. It's brutal. Go ahead.
I mean, we'll get to it, but as far as like the gore here, nothing like, I mean, for me, the guy instantly exploding was just kind of funny, but...
It kind of is, because I was in more shock than anything. I was like, wait, did that guy like try to do it and immediately fucking blow himself up?
Yes.
But the one... Yeah, he did.
The one that gets me is, we'll get to it, is when a knife is slowly stabbed into somebody.
That's the main one that I wanted to talk about.
So it starts off with like tanks kind of fall in on them. The Jackson, the Barry Pepper sniper, is up in a bell tower, kind of laying folks down, and eventually the tank notices him and blows up the tower.
And it's just like,
yep, here we
go. It
go.
aims up, and it's like, oh, you're You're boned.
Yeah, you're fucked. And Barry Pepper's dead. He's just fucking dead.
He goes out well. Like it's a very cool sequence where he's like praying and just like
360 no scoping everybody in sight.
I'm sure there's like a bunch of people on internet forums talking about how he could not have shot that many people without having to reload.
Make that shot. Nobody can make that shot.
No one has a sniper rifle with a clip that has like 12 bullets in it, but who cares? It's fucking sick.
Yeah, it's a movie. Don't worry about it too much. Yeah, you have that. You have Goldberg and like another soldier are holed up in one room that has like a hole in the wall that they're like providing like support fire through. They keep throwing
they have
out
a machine
grenades.
Gun in there.
Germans are throwing grenades in. They're doing hot
like
potato effectively. And eventually they run out of ammo, and Goldberg starts screaming like, Upham, we need more ammo. Yeah, get the fuck over here.
And Upham, we find out like what Upham's kind of real measure is here, and turns out he's kind of a coward. Like he freezes, and as a result, a
German soldier, particularly, I think, isn't it the same German soldier?
It's the same guy. It's Steamboat Willie.
Yeah, makes his way up the stairs and gets into a scuffle with Adam Goldberg, and they have a knife fight together. He eventually gets hold of the knife and just very slowly and brutally, like, just buries that knife into Goldberg's chest.
It's haunting, where it's like, you know, as the fight is sort of going bad, like Goldberg's character Mellish is just kind of like, hey, stop, let's talk about this, like, as the knife is going into him,
and he's
like the German guy is whispering something to him, but because you don't speak German, you don't know whatever it is he's saying, and it's
Upham hears all of this happening because he's in the stairwell, like right next to that room, and like he's powerless to do anything.
Yeah, he has like full bandolier bullets. He has a gun in his hand, and he is just cowering on the staircase. Even goes so far as to see the German soldier like walking down the stairs, walks past him and looks him up and down, and keeps moving, like just keeps going. And Upham is like in tears effectively after the guy leaves, because he's just like, I couldn't fucking do anything in this. Like it's so
it's heartbreaking rough. Like, yeah. It's that's maybe the hardest sequence of hardest part of the sequence to watch, because it's just like, because Mellish is like probably one of the, like, he is like a comic relief character. It's in many points, like he is one of the more like
he's the most fun character in the movie. But yeah, so you see that happen, and, you know, shit just seems to keep getting worse and worse. Like, that German soldier also, like, shoots Tom Hanks. Hanks, like, they aren't able to set off the explosives that are supposed to, like, stop the tank on the bridge. So Hanks is just bleeding out in the middle of the bridge with just a gun, like, trying to shoot at the tank as it makes its way across the bridge, and like his hand starts shaking. He's about to take one last shot at it. He fires, tank fucking blows up, and you get the reveal of a bunch of fucking bomber jets, like American bombers, passing over, and that is ultimately what actually saves Ryan at the end of the day, is those reinforcements arriving and saving them all. And it just kind of highlights how fucking like pointless all this was. Like, Hanks and Ryan's crew could have just left, probably, and those bombers would have taken out like that German like advancement without them doing this.
Yeah. And yeah, it's also like Horvath dies over the course of this as well, like where he kind of goes on an adventure where he gets shot and then like fights some German in like a fist fight, and then like ends up on the bridge, and like he kind of bleeds out to the point where Hanks doesn't even realize he's dead for a second. He's like calling to him.
I didn't realize he is dead.
Yeah.
I actually did not, until you said it. I thought that Tom Sizemore was one of the few that survived.
Oh no. Like he is dead. He has his eyes open, but he's dead by that point.
But yeah, you have that. You have like, now that all the chaos is subsumed, like they are holding all of the German soldiers like at gunpoint. Upham sees like the fucking Steamboat Willie guy like holding up his hands, and he's still doing his same fucking shtick trying to appeal, and Upham just effectively out of like bitterness, like bitter spite of what that guy did after they let him go, just shoots him dead. And again, much like the bombers showing up, it's effectively meaningless. Like, him killing that guy has done nothing. It did not help him. It did not help Goldberg. It did not help this situation whatsoever.
Yeah, because like that guy's he's already killed your friends. Like,
yeah,
what's done is done.
Yeah. And then, you know, in the final moments in this penultimate scene, we have Ryan, you know, finding Hanks amongst the chaos, and Hanks calls him in close and simply says to him, "Earn this." Like, and, you know, we get a nice shot from down of Matt Damon's face, and it ages over time into the man that we saw at the beginning of the film.
Yeah, it's that gif you've seen 1,000 times.
Feeling old yet not gif. It's amazing how this project has shown me the root of all of these gifs on the internet. Every meme explained.
And
what was that, Bridget? You had a question?
Doesn't he also give him Vin Diesel's letter?
Yeah, he had Caparzo's letter, who was like, the medic took it off of Caparzo, and then like Miller rewrote it, and then Hanks took the letter from the medic, and so like the letter finally ends up with Ryan there.
That all did not connect for me in my brain. I thought everyone had their own individual letters. I didn't even put together that it was still Caparzo's that they were passing along the whole way.
Yeah, because it's the same bloody...
God damn, what a good fucking movie. Like, it's so dense in its details that, like, you focus in on one line of thinking and you completely miss, like, other little bits of storytelling in there. But yeah, so, you know, we cut back to the book ending framing device of old Ryan in the memorial cemetery, like, crying over the grave of Miller, and, you know, he turns to what I would assume is his wife and asks, like, tell me I'm a good man. Like, absolutely fucking devastating.
Tell me I lived a good life.
It killed me, where it's just like, it's so hard, because like, you know, you totally, like, you can't help but understand why Miller would say that, like why he would tell Ryan to earn it, but also just like it's impossible to feel like you have earned it. Like, there's no way, like, you know that that's something that haunted him for his entire life afterwards.
Yeah, and you first see that, like, at the beginning of that bridge bit where he's already going, like, why the hell should I go home? Everyone's already fighting here, you know, everyone stood by me.
Yeah,
like, why am I should go?
He already has the guilt
the survivor's
preloaded
guilt before he survives. And then all this way into, like, his life having gone by all these years, his family, his developments, everything in his life has been so alienated from him, and he's still like, tell me I've earned this. He has survivor's guilt just eating at him. Because when we go back to that frame, you know, it starts with like him looking back at them because the family's still in the background. He's looking awash at all of these crosses and the one Jewish guy and all of these crosses in this like fucking
I made that
ocean
point
of
too,
death
but
that is
Evie
more-
says
Hold
there
on
are
a minute,
other-
I'm not done. Looking at this massive ocean of fucking graves that is more where he is enveloped in, and behind him the shot of this family that's just this thing like still very alienated, still distant from him, where he's starting to turn to that and beg like, tell me I've been a good man, tell me I lived a good life, right? Because like he still has this fucking guilt, and it's like, Jesus Christ,
Yeah.
war bad, actually.
What were you going to say, Bridget?
No, I was just gonna say I made that point too, but Evie says there are other stars there.
There's like a couple other stars. You can see them
At the beginning of it, like they're there at the beginning of the movie, like.
But yeah, so it is like heartbreaking.
Yeah.
So that's effectively where the movie ends.
No, there's one more important thing.
What's that?
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light?
There is a bit with the American flag is laid over the shot where it's like. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it does that in the beginning too. Like that's part of the book.
Oh, say, can.
Anyways, so now we can start talking about more grand picture things with this movie. So Steven Spielberg himself is famously quoted as saying that every war movie, good or bad, is an anti-war movie. Now, I don't know about the other people on this call. I don't know that I fully agree with that sentiment.
Look, I am on record of saying that basically no one can tell Steven Spielberg shit about how to make a good movie.
No,
but
sure.
That's fucking nonsense. He's wrong about that.
I concede on, like, if it's a good war movie, then it should ultimately have that message of, like, no, this is fucking hell. You should never want there to be war. Like, we have conveyed what happens in this so well that you as a human being understand this sucks.
Yeah.
We should not do this anymore. However, the thing that I wanted to focus in on is I feel like even when you are making a good war movie that properly conveys an anti-war sentiment, you have a risk reward of over-valorizing the concept of the military and the struggles that they go through. Like, it's this weird fucking catch-22 that I would argue this movie almost falls into. Like, by ending the movie on that message of Tom Hanks and his platoon sacrificing themselves to save Damon while imparting that message of, like, earn this, it feels like the movie is both trying to condemn war while also treating soldiers like they are inherently, like, holier than thou figures in society, where it's
despite most of them being drafted, you know.
Yeah, like, ultimately I think the movie does a good enough job of grounding itself, like, in its core cast and ideas, and grappling with that internal struggle of, like, fighting for a mission versus fighting for, like, the people that you love. And, like, kind of what you talked about earlier, Evie, of, like, that not fragment, the stratification of, like, command, where, like, you have people in such high frames of power that, like, they're essentially never going to see the consequences of what these people on the lower rungs have to go through. Like, you get enough of that in this movie that it at least helps it dodge that bullet for me a little bit.
I do feel like it doesn't.
It ends with the American flag.
I
America
don't think
has
it,
their
like,
way, everything will, unfortunately. But sorry, go on.
I feel like, you talked about how just like it does not convey that, like, the bridge, the whole thing with the bridge is pointless. Like we can infer it, like, based on, like, oh, like, once the bombers rolled in, like, they would have stopped the German advance there regardless. But, like, it doesn't make that point clearer at all, because, like, you could just as easily read it as, like, Ryan's crew. Ryan's crew held them there so that the bombers could hit them, or
they made
like
the
that.
ultimate sacrifice, the sacrifice for the country.
Which, going into the myth of the greatest generation, which is another thing that makes me feel conflicted about this movie. Like, as someone who is as, like, staunchly anti-war as I am, I, like, don't get me wrong, ultimately, yes, you were fighting against the Nazis, and that's probably, like, one of the few, like, most inherently good, in scare quotes here, actions of war that a military could do. We still bomb the shit out of Japan with, like, nuclear bombs.
Yeah, we've done the most horrific fucking shit that, like, mankind has ever done. Twice.
Yeah.
To one place that had nothing to do with this
Literally,
fight.
we have mentioned a movie where the entire plot is about the effects of nuclear bombing.
Grave of the Fireflies is only one of those. Yeah.
I mean,
in this corner of the world.
In this corner of the world as well.
Like, you, not only that, but you get into, like, actual historical facts about, like, how America was such a fucking late entry into World War II.
It's never mentioned in these pictures.
If we were never attacked, like, it's pretty reasonable to think that, we would have been fine just we would have let all American
the Jews
companies
die.
would have been fine to
I
profiteer.
wouldn't be here right now. You know what I mean? Like, it's that level of shit where it's just like, it's such a jerk off moment.
You can find Dr. Seuss comics about America and Nazis shaking hands because America isn't going to war with.
Yeah. So, like,
it's been plenty documented how, like, not just America, but, like, I believe Canada and the UK were also, like, pointedly turning away refugees from the Holocaust, like, because, like, deep anti-Semitism, like, it's Mm-hmm.
But so you get into, like, all of that stuff, and, like, once you start considering those things, when you hear someone saying, like, earn this, and did I live a good life, like, the ideological part of my brain kicks in, and I'm like, oh, this is just some fucking boomer shit that was, like, made to, like, hold over the old people that are going to the movies and shit.
Honestly, earlier this week, like, I had started to regret recommending this movie a little bit because, we don't have to get into it, but, like, we're like a week out from, like, the massacre in Rafah and all that kind of stuff. And so, like, anything that, like, a movie like this that can valorize war, just in terms of making it seem like, make the violence seem noble in any way, like, it made me regret my words and deeds a little bit.
I get it, but ultimately I think that the fact that we are acknowledging this concept is the most important part of us talking about this movie, is being able to take that step back and be like, so this is probably one of the greatest films ever made, but also
Not my greatest films ever made, but I wouldn't even put it in like a top 50.
Well, it's not, trust me, it's not even close to being one of my favorite films.
Oh, no.
I think it is a masterclass of filmmaking, but I do not think it is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Not at all. Not for me
Also,
either.
the thing I wanted to say is because I was like, Evie, did you pick this movie because it's Memorial Day?
Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
I was thinking about that a little bit afterwards. I was like, oh yeah, it was Memorial Day like weekend. But yeah, so those are like my main gripes about the movie. Is just like
the main grapes.
Yeah, those are like on my first viewing of this movie. That was like my instant go-to. Like I was able to acknowledge that it was a well-made movie, but that very ending kind of left a sour taste in my mouth. And it's only like, I'm really glad that I had so much time to sit on this film since the last time we recorded, because that's what led me to thinking more about like the alienation and isolation side of like the themes that it's trying to talk about over the course of the film.
That I think they did really, really well.
No, I think it does that phenomenally well. Like that makes it worth it. Especially, I don't know if either of you ended up watching that behind the scenes thing that I sent you, but effectively that's where like it got cemented in me that like, oh, okay, this is supposed to be an anti-war movie, but Spielberg also very explicitly says in the interviews on there that he also made that movie for the veterans. Like, he did not make that for us. Yeah. Like, he did not make this. We were not the intended audience here. So that is where that divide is. That's why we, as a younger generation who do not have those ties to it, are able to watch it, appreciate it, but still step back and be like, yeah, but also kind of fuck this sentiment, like a little bit here. I
rather rewatch X than rewatch this movie.
I staunchly disagree with you. But
yeah, I can't go there with you.
Yeah, that is not a path I can walk down. But yeah, the conversation around like the alienation and isolation that human beings have to go through in order to do something like this is the far more fascinating part of this conversation. Like, that's the part that makes that ending on the next revisit feel so heartbreaking. Like, it makes that bookend of like the prologue and the epilogue where he is like constantly straying away from his family, isolating from the family visually throughout each of those shots, feel like, no, this is not simply a physical distance thing. Mentally, he is never going to be like at that same like connection that the rest of his family is because of what he went through in that war. And
I feel like most people will not get that out of this movie.
No, I agree.
That's why we're talking about it.
Like that's the thing ultimately is like one of the biggest consequences of this movie is I feel like this is maybe the movie that's most responsible for carrying forward the valorization of the military into the 21st century.
The end of Barry.
Like, I'm trying to think, because you consider it like, I feel like there are other World War II things, like in the late 80s. Yeah, Pearl Harbor, you had this movie, you had Band of Brothers. Like, this movie is part of that cavalcade of like World War II media that came out that kind of revalorized the American populace. And then you tie that into the September 11th attacks, where it's just like, this is what helped breed us into a country of wild hogs in our response to foreign intervention.
it is much in the same way, you know, as like where all of these films and these things that, you know, are there to garnish and gratify the idea of, you know, like, yeah, we did it, we brought freedom in. Like that was actually in the documentary we were watching, where someone just like, this is for us to show, to really give thanks to the people who let us live in this land of freedom. It's like, oh, shut the fuck up.
Yeah,
because it's like, listen, because that's the thing, we were talking about it, is that it starts with like, yeah, none of these things ever address, we came in real fucking late to it. We, you know, it was, you know, once everything had finally ended up and ganged up on Hitler, he ran off and he took a cyanide pill.
Like,
not done. He took a cyanide pill and then he fucking died. But, you know, the whole narrative is the Jews were enslaved, so, you know, Uncle Sam tap danced in and plugged Hitler in the head, and there you go, world, you're welcome.
Yeah.
But it's like they never bring up the beginning of that. It is much in the same way that, you know, when we go to, you know, without Pearl Harbor, we wouldn't have been involved, as we were already talking about, as Evie mentioned. It's like, we would have had nothing to fucking do with that. Freedom did not fucking matter. That had nothing to do with it. And this comes into, again, you know, like we're talking about now with more modern things, you know, like half our life ago, you got the thing going on with 9/11 where no one ever talks about all of the war crimes, atrocities, and the many thousands, if not millions more, that we killed that caused that desperate attack, the lies that were created to create narratives to demonize people, the god-awful amounts of just Islamophobia that are still affecting people's minds and brainwashing today, that was caused by this one desperate attack that we, frankly, I'm gonna go and say
no,
it.
you don't need to say it.
We don't say it
on
You
the
know what I'm
podcast.
thinking. We deserve
Yes.
it. The point is that I want to be heard on this, because this is the kind of thing where I want to make this said. Basically, we are in no place to be mad about it, and yet we are still milking that cow 40 years later, it feels like. Yeah, I know it's not that long, you know what I mean? But the point is, like, this is insane, you know, but that is why I feel so much just kind of, you know, I'm keeping it level here, but, like, I feel such animosity toward these particular narratives, toward these sort of, you know, ideas, is because, like, you look at what's going on now, again, as Evie mentioned, what's going on in the world today, and you go, yeah, no, if there was anything to be learned from the Holocaust, no one who runs these systems learned anything. Yeah. Like, that was never the case, and it shows to this day, and that is what makes this so disgusting to watch. And I really wish, for the technical prowess that was put into this, for the addressing the alienation, the hellfire of what's wrong with war, that it had done more to just kind of capstone that as the narrative, like that as the thing it should have been saying, because to cap it off with that, like, patriotism thing is really, really fucking weak sauce.
Mm-hmm. Evie?
Yeah, there's like, and like, you can't, it's hard to place like it's hard to place it within like the broader historical context in the course of like a movie that's already like nearly 3 hours.
A movie that is like, as long as World War II. At least our involvement in it.
Yeah, like and ultimately I think that's like it's kind of the thing where like it's tough because it needs that broader historical context, but it's not reasonable to like ask it to like stop and do like a Big Short sort of thing where it's just like, here's Selena Gomez to explain to you like how, you know, the Red Army was attacking from the Eastern Front, and then like, you know, Pearl Harbor and all this kind of stuff. Like it's but also like, I guess what I'm saying is systemic issues. Because like most people aren't going to be like coming to the movie with that context. They're not going to have that. And so like, what do? You can't you could castigate it for like requiring that context in order to have like a full understanding of the thing. But you know, Steven Spielberg wasn't going to be the guy to talk about the Red Army in a movie anyway.
Like I said, it's a catch-22. Like it's very much a catch-22.
Which is why we should watch Enemy at the Gates. What?
I guess an okay version of talking about, or at least some alienation, but I don't know. I never felt that much. If it's there, but it's not really.
I get it doesn't end up being the focal point, and
it's not Rambo, which is entirely a movie about the alienation of our troops.
Yes, absolutely.
And not caring for, and I mean original Rambo, not the sequel movies where they're just like, actually war's cool.
Yeah, like the sort of thing kind of happens to Rambo that happened to Saving Private Ryan, where people had the wrong takeaway from it.
Yeah, exactly. So and I guess probably the one final note that I'll put in there as more of a dig at this movie than anything else is a thing to consider. So in Marvel movies, how anytime it's going to include, a branch of the US military, they usually have to get approval from one of those branches of the US military by either portraying them in a very positive light or at the very bare minimum, a neutral light. It makes me wonder if that was a thing that Spielberg that was considered in the making of this movie at all. Like, it feels like maybe it was a little bit too early, especially in the Marvel context, for that to be a thing. But just a thought.
I feel like Spielberg can just do what he wants. He's Spielberg. But
also, he would need access to
military equipment. Equipment. That is the rub with featuring military in your movie, is usually you need the equipment, and Uncle Sam ain't giving you that equipment for free.
Yeah, it's not easy to get ARs like that, Yeah. If you're...
So that was one of those late note things that popped into my brain that I was like, interesting. I wonder if that had to do with anything here. But also another thing to keep in note is that apparently Spielberg's dad fought in World War II. So at the end of the day, I don't think this was going to end any other way than this, regardless of, had he been given 5 hours of the movie to make, or the military telling him to cast it in a more positive light, this was going to be the movie that he made when he made Saving Private Ryan. But yeah, I feel like that's about everything that... Oh, I remember the one last note. I hadn't mentioned it throughout this movie at all. I know it's not a hot take. I think the dog needs to go for a walk.
Oh, but I had final thoughts.
For sure. I mean, we could kind of put it on pause for this immediate moment, do that. Maybe.
Intermission!
So there was one more thing I wanted to talk about, which was the John Williams score. A little bit of a hot take, in my opinion. I don't think I like John Williams as a composer for the most part. I find his stuff, a little bit too obtrusive for the most part. I watched Jaws for the first time fairly recently, and I kind of hated that soundtrack. I felt like it got too in the way of everything that happened during that movie. It was trying too much to pull you through each scene.
I could feel that.
This is maybe the one movie where universally I feel like his score works perfectly.
I don't even remember it, so I couldn't tell.
But that's the thing, is ideally, as a composer, the best score, it's not going to be a thing that sticks out to you. It is more of a thing that helps set hit the mic, that helps set like the tone, helps like drive the scenes and things of that nature, but it is not a thing that's in the foreground that you're like being hammered with music.
When you do things right, people won't be sure you've done anything at all.
Sure. Yeah. Yes, exactly that point. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of like my last note before we go into final thoughts, was saying I really like the John Williams score on this movie. Pretty good. Good job, John. All right. Final thoughts, Bree.
Great job.
So I guess the only other thing I wanted to touch on was, I think the only other media that you really kind of see this sort of narrative dissonance of this particular kind in is something we've talked about before in like kind of butt metal music. There are a lot of bands that have either been or know people who have been in warfare, and there's nothing more metal than war, truly. So like they sing about this, they talk about the atrocities and the hell it brings upon the people who've been through it. But there's always this thing that swings back around to them saying, yeah, but this is why we need to keep fighting. And it's like, wait, you're just, it's a cycle. It's weird.
Yeah.
But that's another place that I guess you see that kind of, pretty much
creeping in.
Yeah, kind of creeping in there as well. So that was just another little thing I wanted to kind of pop in there. And also just to end on a positive note, like, yeah, speaking everything that we have about the ills of the design of it, well, I mean, the ills of the narrative. The design of it, it's amazing. Like, of course, yeah. The things that should feel dissonant and horrifying, they are. The things that should tug on your heartstrings, they do. I like you, again, while this is not my favorite movie of all time, I understand from a technical standpoint why this was the impact that it was, why this is such an important piece of film, and why it inspired so many things to use or parody it.
Yeah.
Is that it's a big cultural thing. It's a big thing, and I get why it had the impact that it did. I think that it really does a beautiful job for what it is.
Yeah, I agree. Bridget?
Overall, this movie's okay. Give it 3 stars. It's about as good as X, the movie. It's about what
Bridget's address is. I'm just kidding. Here's the name, social security number, and address of this voter. Anyway.
It was a long movie about war with Tom Hanks in it. And he sure did hank his Tom through the film.
T. Hanks, thanks.
Great job.
Great job.
What if that's how it ended? Like, after he just says, like, I lived a good life, right? Of course you did. Pause. Great job.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. This is a totally okay film that I have absolutely nothing remarkable to say about.
For sure. Evie?
I think, like, outside of everything we've talked about, how it fits into like the particular like historical context and everything, I think it is still like a very it's a very striking movie. Like, I think it's I do honestly think it's really great. I think it's like this was the first time I'd watched it. I had not seen it before. And I think like it works as like I think it works.
Okay. Yeah, I more or less agree with that. Like, all my like ideological misgivings, trying to accept it for ignoring its historical context and things of that nature, like, it's a phenomenal film. It was also my first time watching it, and like that is a valuable film to watch. I think this is one of those ones everyone should probably watch it once. Like, these are my final thoughts. Let me have my final thoughts. I think that everyone should watch this one once, if not the entire movie. At the very least, the opening sequence, I think everyone should see once.
I could agree with that.
Because I don't think many other movies quite succinctly capture, like, the absolute fucking chaos and devastation of war. Like, the only other movie I have heard talked of in, like, similar, like, wheelhouses is something like Come and See, but I still haven't had the chance to see that one yet. It'll come around at some point, I'm sure. But yeah, this movie was great. It was fantastic. It's not my favorite Spielberg. That belongs to Jurassic Park. But out of the ones I've seen so far, it's probably the best film that he ever made.
Do you think this movie would improve if there were dinosaurs?
I mean, every movie would improve if there were dinosaurs.
Do you think Warsaw Rex?
Jesus.
Anyway.
All right, before...
Make those dinos soar.
What's next on the list?
Yeah, okay. Before Audition crashes on me, because we've been recording for like 3 hours. So, Evie, you truly gave me such a fucking wide berth here, to the point that I kind of suffered a little bit from paralysis of choice. So... From here, you can basically go anywhere you want. I had so many places I could take us. Firstly, I could take us straight to fucking hell via Tom Sizemore and make us watch Big Money Rustlers, the Insane Clown Posse movie. I will not do that to us.
Thank you. You thought X was boring.
Like, not even... You could hit us with Dreamcatcher. Not even going through the cast, I could take you to Collateral, the Michael Mann classic, via Daniel T. Dorrance's art direction. I could take you to 8 Mile from Kevin Cavanaugh on art direction. We could go to Children of Men, Mark Henson on stunts. Aliens, Sean McCabe on stunts. Casino Royale, Pavel Kajil on stunts. The Long Goodbye via John Williams. We could go to Killers of the Flower Moon, a recent movie, via Sian Grigg on makeup. However, I came down to 2 primary choices. Both of them are movies that I have seen before. One of them more recently than the other. One, via Bryan Cranston, I was considering taking us to Little Miss Sunshine. I was very close. Like, it was basically a last-minute decision to not pull the trigger on Little Miss Sunshine, because I think that's probably the most valuable movie to come of that, like, 2000s, like, indie boom that happened. However, the path that I'm taking us down, and it's a very dangerous path because there are connections to Kevin Smith here, is via Matt Damon. We are going to Good Will Hunting. One of my favorite films of all time.
The Germa movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Germa movie. A joke that will make no sense unless you watch, like, top 0.1% streamers on Twitch. But anyways, our next viewing assignment, Good Will Hunting by Gus Van Sant, starring Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, Robin Williams. Great fucking film. Yes. Very good movie. But yeah, that is my choice for next time. You can find us on cohost.
Another 90s film.
Yeah. You can find us at cohost.org / put it on the list. We are on Spotify now. You can find us on YouTube. Official. If I ever get off my ass and find out what my login for iCloud is, maybe you'll find us on Apple Music at some point. But we're there. Follow us on cohost.org. Send us questions for more icebreakers. I've been Burpin, and I've been Jay.
And I've been Bree.
I continue to be Evie.
And I'm Bridget. The Simon McCall of this, I don't know.
Simon the Cowell?
You are not the Simon Cowell of this. If anything, you're closer to the Randy Jackson of this if we're going the American Idol route.
Good night, everybody.
Have a good one. Bye, everyone.
Good night.
Bye. Bye.